Each were painted black today. Here we go. Tommy Green trying to start the season 7-0. He whiffs Alex Cole. Green, a complete game 6 hitter. 5th inning, Darren Dalton against Lance Painter. Deep to right, back. Gone, homer number 14, 1-0 Phillies. 2 batters later in the 5th. Kim Batiste on first. Tommy Green, he's the pitcher. Hits the home run. Green went 3 for 4 today. 2 batters later. Mariano Duncan. Back. Gone. 3 homers in the 5th. Against Gary Wayne later on in the game. Don Baylor saw the Phillies hit 3 homers in another inning. 18-1. The Phillies win. They win the series 39-10 over the weekend. Tommy Green is now 7-0. The Phillies' record of 34-14 is the best in baseball. Expos at the Cubs. John McSherry looked to the skies and said, guess what? This just in is rain. An hour and 11-minute rain delay at Wrigley. Rain so hard that you...
Right for a few innings, left field 4.
I played everywhere but short and first base.
The Tigers don't have a starting 9. Sparky Anderson says he has a starting 11, thanks in large part to an unusually versatile roster. Offensively, it has worked. Division-leading Detroit is near the top in batting average, home runs, and runs scored.
It's an opportunity to get them all involved in it. Right now, as long as things are going good, as long as they go good, we'll keep everybody involved. I think it's very important to anybody that you're on a ball club, that you're part of the ball club.
He's just putting the best lineup out there, the guys that are doing a job. You don't want someone that's hitting 400 sitting on a bench, or someone that's driving in a lot of runs and coming up with big hits sitting on a bench.
Using 14 position players, Anderson already has used 7 left fielders, 5 center fielders, 4 right fielders, 4 third basemen, 3 first basemen, 2 shortstops, 3 second basemen, and 2 catchers. That may help explain why the Tigers have one of the worst fielding percentages in baseball, but Anderson isn't too concerned.
I enjoy looking up and thinking I have somebody else on a fly ball out and left, and I look up and I say, oh no, I got him out there. You know, so yeah, it's a little different that way. You know, I've had that happen already. I said, oh my Lord, he's out there. But I never said it loud enough for anybody to hear.
I'm not a great outfielder. I'm adequate. You know, how many balls are going to be hit out to me? But I just take the same philosophy as I would as the infield. Try to make the routine plays, and let the great plays take care of themselves.
How many gloves do you have? It's terrible. I wish they made a glove that I could take for every position, but I usually bring down about 4 gloves.
I only have 2 now.
I've got 3 right now.
I get more tired bringing my gloves down than I do playing sometimes.
Tony Phillips, Mickey Tettleton, and Alan Trammell are regulars without homes. Phillips has played 5 positions, Tettleton and Trammell 4 apiece. Skeeter Barnes has played 4 positions, mostly against lefties. This type of uncertainty can cause problems on some teams, but not on the Tigers.
I just come to the ballpark and try not to predict myself where I'm going to play. Just as long as I'm in the lineup, I don't care.
I realize that there's other players here that need to play, and as long as I can get in that 4 or 5 times a week and be prepared, I'm happy with that.
I'm a team player. I've always been a team player, and I relish in the fact that anything I can do to help my team out, that's what I'm here for.
I know as long as I hit, I'll be in the lineup somewhere.
The flexibility has enabled Anderson to carry 2 extra pitchers, and with his bullpen ERA hovering around 4.25, he has needed to. But it has also given him a chance to rotate his everyday players, and if the Tigers should find themselves in the pennant race later this season, that rest could become awfully helpful.
All right, Jack, thank you. Well, obviously, everybody knows that the Tigers have some serious heavy metal, Peter, but you're telling me that the heaviest metal on the team are not the big sluggers.
Well, not really. For me, if the season were to end tomorrow, Tony Phillips is going to be the MVP. It's not only that he plays all these positions, but right up at the top of that order, okay, he's not Ricky Henderson, but he establishes, he gets on base 45% of the time, he establishes the Tigers' aggressiveness. And remember, with all the moving around, for all the talk of the defensive problems they've had, still, with that flexibility, Sparky has certain people that are in positions. Travis Fryman is one of the best young players in the game, no question. Whitaker is still a very good second baseman. Kyler in center. Rob Deere is a very underrated right fielder. And Chad Kruger has really come into his own. Nobody knows too much about him. All of a sudden, thrown out 48% of the runners, and he's really become an outstanding defensive catcher. That's a pretty good club.
Yeah, Tigers certainly are a pretty good club. We'll see them tonight on Baseball Tonight. Still on Sunday Night Baseball. Still to come on Baseball Tonight. I'll get it straight, our who's hot and who's not list. And more highlights. You want hitting? Toronto and Oakland are still doing it. Some wild events in Oakland. We'll show you in a moment.
On his way to 100 RBIs at short, Cecil Fielder, the big gun, at first base. Kirk Gibson out of retirement, having a fine start. Chad Kreuter has come from out of nowhere to hit well. Rob Deere, he of the tape measure home runs. Scott Livingstone, the fine young left-handed batting third baseman. And the speedster Milt Kyler bats ninth in center field. And the veteran Tim Leary going for Seattle. He has never been beaten by the Tigers.
Well, look at his numbers there. I think the important things are his 18 bases on balls in 48 innings, but he's also given up 49 hits. Leary throws a good sinker and a slider, so he will be trying to keep the ball down tonight, and he needs to do that against these Tiger hitters. And defensively for the Mariners, Ken Griffey Jr. in center field is, as I've said before, the finest young defensive player I've ever seen. And Omar Vizquel as shortstop. We saw him save the no-hitter by making a bare-hand stop and throw in the one game that Baggio pitched for a no-hitter.
And the view from the right field foul pole here at the Kingdome. As you can see, a pretty good holiday crowd has gathered here to watch the Mariners and the Tigers. Now, the Tigers were a winner here last night, but the Mariners prevailed coming from behind in the ninth inning on Friday. And so this is the rubber match of the series. Tony Phillips is ready to start it off now. Phillips is hitting .324, and he has a .450 on base percentage, so he is just always on base. He runs pretty well. He's not a base stealer, but he can go from first to third and can score from second on a hit. Phillips also the igniter of the batting orders, we've said, but he's the guy in that clubhouse who's kind of a leader and keeps everybody loose.
Well, Tony Phillips loves to play baseball. I think that's the important thing. I was a teammate of Tony's my last year in Oakland in '84, and he was young then and just learning how to play. I really like what I've seen him accomplish the last couple of years.
He operates out of that Ricky Henderson-like crouch, both left-handed and right-handed.
But the positive for Tony Phillips is he can play any place for you. You know, you hear a lot of players play a lot of different positions. They say, well, that bothers my hitting. Doesn't bother Tony Phillips.
And that's out of play. It's incorrect. It kind of makes me bristle when I hear people refer to Tony Phillips as a utility player.
Exactly.
Utility player is a guy who sits on the bench and can go in when somebody's hurt or late in the ball game after they've used pinch hitters, things like that. This man is a starter and an everyday player.
Yeah, he's not a utility player. He's a versatile player.
Indeed. A ball and 2 strikes. 2-2. Coaching the bases for the Tigers, there is Gene Roof at first base. And over at third base, the veteran Dick Trzaskowski. He's been one of Sparky Anderson's lieutenants for a long time. 2-2 pitch on the way. Cotto drifting back. And Phillips is retired. One away.
Second baseman, number 1, Lou Whitaker.
So that'll bring up Sweet Lou, and there's the view from the dome. And my advice to you is if that's the only seat left, just don't go that night. Actually, they don't let anybody up there but cameramen. Lou Whitaker, he's still getting it done. His power numbers are down right now.
Well, it surprised me, John, when I talked to him today, because he got off to a great start. I mean, he was swinging the bat real well, hit a couple of home runs early, but all of a sudden he said he was spread out too much and couldn't drive the ball.
Well, last night he had 4 for 4, and he's still got that streak going. He's going to try for 2. Griffey's throw. Safe. A hustle double by Lou Whitaker, his 10th double of the year.
And as you said, he's still getting it done. It's a breaking ball away, and he just lines it up the middle for a base hit. And Bruner lets it go because I'm sure Griffey was calling behind him. But good hustle by Whitaker, and he's in there with a double.
It's not a bad throw by Griffey, right on the bag. Here now is Travis Fryman. And that's ball 1. One thing interesting about Whitaker taking that extra base there. The Tigers are aggressive on the base paths. Unlike Tiger teams maybe you think of from the past where they just all swing from the heels and wait for the long ball. Now they force the action. They'll run a lot. They're looking to take that extra base at all times. Straight away center. Whitaker is not tagging. And Griffey's got it.
Yeah, it's interesting about the Tigers. They've won 14 games and lost 7 when they did not hit a home run. And I think that's interesting because, as you mentioned, they are very aggressive. They do not have a lot of speed, but Sparky hits and runs a lot. He will just put guys in motion, and they always seem to take the extra base when it is there.
Here is Cecil Fielder. One other interesting thing about the Tigers, they're scoring over 6 runs per game. Just an astounding pace. And that's even though they've not been scoring many lately. And the big guy, Cecil Fielder, has not done anything at all extraordinary. In fact, you'd say probably he's off to kind of a slow start for him. With 9 homers, 32 RBIs. I mean, that's a pace for over 100 RBIs and nearly 30 homers, but those are not Cecil Fielder-like numbers right there. The count 1 ball and 1 strike. Coming into this ball game, the Tigers, who have played 47 games, averaging 6.25 runs per game. Not since 1953 has a Major League team averaged more than 6 a game. Of course, that was one of the all-time great Dodger teams in '53. Floating in over the outside from Leary. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Fielder. The Tigers have been kind of shut down in this series. They got 3 last night and 3 Friday against the Mariner pitching. Up and in for a ball. 2-2 the count to Fielder.
You know, I'm a big Cecil Fielder fan, John, because he produces runs. You know, he led the league in runs batted in for the 3rd straight time. And I'm not so big on batting average for first baseman or third baseman. I'm big on their run production, and he produces runs.
Little pop fly, shallow right, Buhner, late break, base hit. Whitaker has scored. Fielder to second, and he will be content with 2 bases. I guess if you're an outfielder, it's tough when Fielder swings to ever think about coming in. Well, Buhner came in late, and it cost him.
Well, they're playing him so deep to start with that when he swings and hits it off the end of the bat, even though he still has the same powerful swing, the ball just bloops into right field, but then it gets away from Buhner. And he goes into second base with a double. And I do not see an error on the scoreboard, so I'll assume that it is a double.
And that is the way they've scored it. Double and a run batted in for Cecil Fielder. His 33rd RBI of the year. Now here is Kirk Gibson. We thought we had seen the last of Kirk. He started last season with the Pirates and then was released and he retired. That one has got a chance to fall. And it will roll all the way to the wall. Gibson streaking around second, and he'll hold on there as Griffey hurries it back to the infield. A double for Kirk Gibson as Fielder scores, and it is 2-0 Detroit.
Well, Gibson hits the ball in the gap. It's a low, looks like a split finger, and he hits it in the gap in the left center field. Griffey was after it, just could not get there in time. Ball went past him all the way to the wall. Gibson would have had a triple, but he slipped rounding first base. So he had to settle for a double, but he also drives in the run.
Lou Piniella say, hey, these guys are supposed to be hitting them into the seats and hitting line shots. Nobody's hardly hit the ball hard yet. A couple of little loopers that fell in. Here now is Kruger. Easy play for Griffey. And will do it. But the Tigers hit 3 doubles and scored twice. Mariners coming up. New York Yankees now. He's out in the Pacific Northwest. Lou Piniella managing the Seattle Mariners now. And here's his batting order. Rich Amaral at second base. Henry Cotto in left field. Ken Griffey Jr. hits third. Edgar Martinez, the batting champion in the league a year ago, the DH. Jay Buhner, he's got 10 home runs already. He's got a lot of power, right field. Mike Blowers, he was very surprising when he replaced Martinez. Tino Martinez at first. Dave Valley, the catcher. And the defensive whiz, Omar Vizquel, is at shortstop, hitting 9. Informally, he was with the Blue Jays. And ironically, he's helping the Tigers in a pennant race against the Blue Jays. There's David Wells.
Well, look at those numbers. Only 43 hits in 68 2/3 innings. David Wells has become a power pitcher again. Last year, he fell into problems throwing a lot of off-speed pitches. Good fastball and a couple of variety of curveballs. Hard curve and a slow curve. Well, let's take a look at the defense for the Tigers. And Tony Phillips, who plays just about every place, will be in left field tonight. And Cecil Fielder, I picked him because I think Cecil Fielder is one of the most underrated defensive first basemen in the American League.
He made a sprawling grab of a ground ball last night to get an out in a tight ball game. Look at that batting average here by Rich Amaral, 329. It's one of those guys who has persevered. Takes ball 1 from David Wells. Amaral could have any time in the last number of years decided to hang him up. He's been a career minor leaguer. Now he's playing on a regular basis, and he's playing extremely well. He steals bases. He leads the club in steals.
There's a number of 1,009 minor league baseball games.
You ever want to know about Geneva? And I'm not talking Switzerland or Quad City, Winston-Salem. And fastball is a strike 2-1. Pittsfield. He had 3 years in Pittsfield. Birmingham, Vancouver, Calgary. He's the man to ask. He's played in all of those places. Rich Amaral, he's now 31 years of age. At long last. He's a regular man on a big league roster. There is the Mariners first base coach, Sam Mejias. And there's Sam Palazzo, the third base coach. Fryman. He got it. Just in time.
Batting second, the left fielder, 28.
By the way, that first base coach is Sam Mejias, but we had him identified on the screen as Ken Griffey. Ken Griffey is a coach now for the Mariners. Ken Griffey, the elder, is the hitting instructor. That's Sam Mejias, the first base coach, Mejias. Here is Henry Cotto. He's always hit left-handers pretty well. Runs well. Is a very fine outfield. So far this year, he's off to just a terrible start, though, hitting 157. One ball, one strike. Now, the Mariners, we're catching them in the middle of their worst slump of the year. The Mariners have not been able to score runs in this 6-game homestand. First 6 games of it, they're hitting only 227. Strike 2 called. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Cotto bluffing the bunt. And they're only averaging 2.5 runs per game in this homestand. And yet they've won 3 of the games, and I guess that's one of the big differences the Mariners this year. They can pitch and they can beat you when they aren't hitting. Curveball misses. 2-2. David Wells. So ironic, Joe. I mean, a left-hander with a great arm, such a valuable commodity, and yet cut loose for the Toronto Blue Jays at the end of the spring, and they got nothing for him. Struck him out with a high fastball.
Well, you know, he mentioned to me, he said he had 1 bad good year and they traded him, you know, let him go. He said last year, you know, one of the reasons he had the poor year again was that he was not a power pitcher. He used his breaking ball too much. Now he's back to being a power pitcher. Plus, I'm sure the runs that the Tigers put on the board for him helps also.
2 down. Here is Ken Griffey Jr. Now, he has been one of the Mariners who's been slumping of late. And, of course, in many ways, as Griffey goes, so go the Mariners. They need him to get hot.
And we may never know how good Ken Griffey Jr. could or will ever be until that is not the definitive statement for the Mariners that so goes Griffey, so goes the Mariners. I think he needs a little more help here than he's had throughout his career.
Cecil Fielder, and he gets the unassisted put out. And so the Mariners are gone very quietly. 2-0 Tigers after 1. Tigers 2, the Mariners nothing. as Rob Deere leads off for Detroit, inning number 2. And a sinker for Leary, ball 1. Now, Deere, I think, is what you always used to think of when you thought of the Tigers. Big guy, swung from the heels, all or nothing. He has 8 home runs this year, hitting .219, still striking out a lot. But it's interesting, I think the Tigers are not hitting quite as many home runs so far as they have in the past. And yet they're scoring so many runs, Joe, and not one Tiger player is really doing anything extraordinary. Not Fielder, not Templeton, not Deere, not Whitaker. I mean, none of the guys you would think of, a lot of them you could say are even a little below average right now.
Well, it really tells you how good they're playing as a team. And I think that's more important than having, 1 or 2 guys having super years. I think as a team, they're playing better baseball, more winning baseball. As we mentioned, they do not have a lot of speed, but they're moving runners along, hitting and running, and scoring runs without the home run. And I think you have to give a lot of credit to Sparky simply because Sparky preaches team baseball, I'll tell you that. I played for him for years, and he didn't want to know about anything other than the team playing to win.
Now, look last year. In games where they did not hit a single home run, they won 14 all year. Already they've won 14 this season in games where they have not homered. In fact, they've won 70% of the games where they have not homered. It's foul. They have not homered in this series, by the way, which I find rather astounding.
Well, if you
come to the Kingdome and not hit a single homer in 2 games?
Well, John, watching them in batting practice today is even more astounding because they were hitting some monstrous blasts all around the Kingdome, and I said, it's amazing that they haven't hit a home run in this series. I can't believe it.
Could be another double. Cotto. Rob Deere loping into second with a stand-up double, his 9th double of the year. The Tigers have hit 4 doubles in the game already. That one, the first one, I think you'd really say, hey, that's a double.
Well, that was a double, but if he would have gotten it in the air a little more, he would have been out of here. Maybe that's the problem. They're just hitting a lot of line drives around the ballpark and not getting enough elevation on them.
Here is Scott Livingstone now. Now, he is one of the few guys in the lineup that when he comes up, you don't think home run. He's a spray-type hitter. Well, he moved his runner over. Now, that's what you're talking about, right, Joe. Situational type hitting. Good team baseball there.
And that's how you win ball games. For instance, if he either fly ball to left field, it would take a base hit to score Deere. Now he's moved Deere over to third base with less than 2 outs. And that's the type of baseball that Sparky Anderson preaches.
Well, that's what they did here last night. They won 3-2 last night. And 2 of their 3 runs scored on sacrifice flies after they'd gotten that man to third. Bullpen activity for the Mariners as Milt Kyler comes up. The infield is coming in already. 2-0 Detroit.
Well, one of the reasons for that is what you said earlier. They have not been scoring runs lately. So you do not want to fall too far behind. Although the other thing you can't take a chance on is giving the Tigers a chance for a big inning here as you take a look at Dennis Powell warming up in the bullpen.
Leary working from the windup. Breaking for the plate is Deere. Amaral. Got him. Deere made a great slide, and he's upset with the call by Cedarstrom. He's astounded by the call.
It was a high chopper. Deere got a good jump from third, and as you mentioned, he makes a great slide trying to avoid the tag of Valley. And we'll take a look from above. As you can see, it was a great slide. It's another angle. Let's take a look. He dives to the outside, very close play.
Lucky might have been in there. He wasn't blocked off the plate by the catcher, but by the bat. The batter is Tony Phillips. He takes ball 1.
I mean, that's almost a tie goes to the runner, as they say. Looks like he touches home plate right as he is tagged by Valley. But, of course, we have the slow motion replay to get a look at it. And the umpire, Cedarstrom, had to go right away. And I'm not so sure that just using the naked eye, you could have called him safe. Very close play.
2-0 to Phillips now. Phillips flying to left his first time. Kyler at first. Now, Kyler is one of the few Tigers that you would classify as a base stealer, but he had some knee surgery in the offseason. He says he's still not back to where he was. Been rehabbing it all through the winter and into the season. There he goes. He saves with his 8th steal of the year. That's the new Tiger baseball there. Kyler now tied for the team lead with Kirk Gibson for steals, but that is their 44th steal, and this is their 48th game.
But they've been caught 30 times, which tells you they do not have a lot of speed. Well, the throw is right on the money, but it gets there just a little late. As Kyler slides in, watch his foot will hit the bag just before the tag is applied. Good camera work there.
3-0 meanwhile to Phillips. He swings away in 3-0, fouls it back. 3-1.
That's one thing Sparky Anderson preaches. Do not let him have something free. The 3-0 pitch in most cases you will take, but with a runner in scoring position, he lets Tony Phillips swing at the ball. And I'm sure that Tony has proved to him over the years that he will not go out of the strike zone 3-0 just to get a swing.
And Tony Phillips has drawn a walk. That is the 43rd time this year that he has walked. Tim Leary on the hill. He's struggling. Remember when we saw Leary in Baltimore? That was last June. The Yankees and the Orioles. Johnny Oates said, hey, ump, this man's scuffing the ball. They went out to check him. He put the glove in front of his face. And what was he doing there? Having a Twinkie, maybe. Well, we had some great camera work that night. And although Leary was never suspended, and they didn't have the hard evidence, everybody saw those pictures, and he was brought into Dr. Bobby Brown's office, the American League president. And Dr. Brown basically sort of said, we don't have the goods on you, and yet we know. Don't do it again. Lou Whitaker with a soaring fly ball. Buhner. And that's the inning. Well, after all of that, the Tigers do not score. A double, a steal, a walk. No runs. They lead 2-0. And his incredible year continues right up till the end of May here. So for the Mariners, Edgar Martinez leads it off, just off the disabled list. You see, he's been struggling a bit since coming back, and he takes a called strike. He has only 2 hits in his last 21 at-bats. This guy's an exciting hitter. He hit .343 last year, led the American League in batting. And even though he missed almost the full last month of the season with injury, he hit 46 doubles a year ago.
But speaking from experience, though, John, when you miss a lot of the season, especially at the beginning, it's very difficult for you to get on track. Of course, he will find his rhythm in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, but it's not surprising to me that he is struggling right now.
Just a little bit inside with that one. 2 balls, 1 strike. 2-0. The Tigers ahead. Looks like the Tigers were going to score some more there in the second, but Mariners managed to keep them off the board despite a double, a steal, a walk. No runs, though. Jay Buhner is on deck. That is too low. 3-1 to Edgar Martinez.
You know, it's a little surprising to me that he's hitting 4th, knowing that, you know, he hasn't been swinging the bat well and is coming back. You'd think that maybe he would hit 2nd, get a chance to hit and run, do a few things, and let Jay Buhner hit 4th because Buhner's having a very fine season. There I go again, second guessing the manager, right? Or is that just a suggestion?
Well, he walked. It's just what they wanted. Don't forget now, the Los Angeles Kings, back of the great one, Wayne Gretzky, have stunned the hockey world, and they are into the Stanley Cup Finals. You'll be able to see Game 1 right here on ESPN, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Gretzky, perhaps going for his final cup, facing the legendary flying Frenchman, Les Canadiens from Montreal.
Montreal?
Montreal. That's where we'll be next Sunday.
Week.
Yeah. For the baseball, though, not for the hockey. Here's Jay Buhner, big, strong, right-handed slugger. He's the guy, when you look at him and say, gee, does he play for the Tigers?
He does look like. Look at that beard. Was that a goatee?
Buhner's hitting .294, and he's got 10 home runs and 33 runs batted in.
John, let me make another note on. The reason I said also for Martinez to hit second would get him more at bats right away so that he could get into the groove.
And that's a ball, 2-0. Mike Blowers is on deck. 2-0 Detroit, last of the second. Jay Buhner not only hits a lot of home runs, when he hits them, wow, they are often very extraordinary. He hit one at Yankee Stadium a couple years ago. At first they said it was 490 feet. That's a called strike, 2-1. They amended it a couple days later, said it was merely on 471.
Oh, okay. That is a lot better than 490, though, John. 490 is the real big fly.
He hit one at Baltimore a couple days before that they measured at 469.
Well, that's his average then, right around 470. That's average home run for Jay Buhner.
That particular week. Jay Buhner, 3-1 the count.
You know, interesting, I was talking to David Wells before the ball game, John. He was saying he was gone back to being a power pitcher. He does not seem to be doing that here in the early going of the ball game. He's throwing a lot of changeups, curve balls, turning the fastball over. Not a power pitcher so far.
Deep center field. Tyler back. Way back. It's gone.
One of the problems of being a power pitcher, if you don't get ahead early and they sit on the fastball, it's a 3-1 fastball right in the middle of the plate. And Buhner hits it right up the middle of the diamond over the 405 sign. And David Wells knew it was gone about the time he hit it. He was just hoping that it may catch the top of the wall.
So 2-2 now. Only the 5th home run allowed this year by Wells in 70 innings. Jay Buhner, he's hit a few of them. That's 11 for him now.
There are probably 2 or 3 hitters, Ken Griffey Jr. and Buhner and maybe Martinez, that he cannot challenge 3-1. He can't pitch behind against these type of sluggers because they will make you pay for it.
Mike Blowers, curveball, bounce foul. Came up with the Yankees. Didn't do much there. He's from this area and finally got a shot because of the injury to Edgar Martinez. And Blowers just lit it up there for a while. And that's why he is still here. He's hitting grand slams, hitting for average. His average still up at 298. A very strong right-handed swing. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Blowers. Two to 2. Another slugger, Tino Martinez, is on deck. That home run was the Mariners' 50th of the year. That curve is low. 2-2 now. The Mariners had only hit 2 homers in their last 10 games. They've been in a team-wide slump for a while, but nonetheless, that's 50 home runs they've hit, so they've got some thunder. Strike 3 call. David Wells with his 2nd strikeout. David Wells used to be sort of the outlaw of the Toronto Blue Jays. Used to wear an earring. No longer.
He told me in Oakland when I met the team, you know, 2 rules: clean shaven and can have a mustache. And he told me to leave the earring in California. And I said, Spark, we're in California. And he goes, you know what I mean? He punched me in the stomach. He said, get rid of it. And I said, all right, that's a deal. So that was something that, it was funny. But, hey, rules are rules. You got to abide by the rules.
And one rule is don't hit the ball anywhere near Lou Whitaker. Otherwise, you'll be out. And that ball was hit by Tino Martinez. Whitaker throws him out. 2 gone.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because Sparky Anderson, when I played for him with the Reds, you couldn't have mustache, couldn't have a beard. And, oh, forget an earring. An earring, that was unheard of. But, you know, Sparky has mellowed over the years.
You mean you didn't wear an earring when you played for Sparky?
No.
We wish we could tell you that he rattled the center field wall with a soaring drive that was majestic and loped into second. But instead, he hit one off the end of the bat, a little pop fly into shallow right. Drove in a run, though.
Well, that's his job. produce some runs. I'm sure he's hit a lot of line drives with runners in scoring position that were caught, too.
That's an interesting looking pitch there by Leary. What is that? Split? Looks like a splitter.
It looks like a splitter, but it looks too slow for a splitter.
Look at those home run totals. Fielder's average year, his last 3 years of the Tigers, was 43 home runs. 3-1 now. Pop that fastball in there.
And that's where you have to pitch Fielder if you're going to be successful. Or down and away, get him a chase, a slider or something, but you try to keep the ball inside, keep him off balance, tie him up inside so he can't get extended. Actually, a pretty good try there by Leary.
He got him out in front of the off-speed delivery. 3-2 now. In a big sense, when he goes into that batter's box, all eyes are on him. He fills up the batter's box. Power just exuding from his presence.
And I think that's great. I mean, hey, he gets my attention. I mean, he gets your attention when he steps into the batter's box, because you know you may see something you've never seen before.
The strike 3 call.
It's a beautiful pitch by Leary. Watch, it seems like it starts outside just off the plate. Now watch it tail back. See, that's outside, outside. Now it comes back on the inside part of the plate, on the outside part of the plate. Now watch Fielder. He goes out to get it, and then he says, well, the ball's away. It's outside. He goes, see how he leans out there, and he says, well, it's outside.
That time he swung at it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, at least he fouled that one, John, but he struck out on the next one.
I would have sworn he took it, but... Your Honor, I present Exhibit A, the slow motion tape. Here's Kirk Gibson. Gibson fouls it off to the left. They picked that Gibson because they thought, number one, he could still play. He had a whole year to mend himself. He said he was just hurt all the time last year when he played with Pittsburgh. Then sat out the rest of the season. He said he was a normal human being. But he was healed up. And Sparky wanted his presence in the clubhouse. He knows Gibson's intense, but he's a winner. It hits Leary and bounces right to Amaral. They don't practice that play in strength training. It worked, though. The inning's over. 2-2.
Look at you. You're dull. You're rusty. You're going to get tough. Rust Tough. Because Rust Tough has unique fat.
Every Sunday throughout the season, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, you'll find us right here on ESPN. Here is Omar Vizquel. Strike, it's 0-1. David Wells.
John, Vizquel made one of the great plays I've seen under pressure when he bare-handed the ball to save Fazio's no-hitter that night, the last out of the game. And I wonder what they would have scored that if he would have bobbled the ball.
Now, usually if they bare-handed, they scored a hit.
Right, and that was a very difficult play. I think he made it more difficult than it was. I think he had time to grab it with his glove and then make the throw, but, you know, under pressure, he did the best he could.
Well, he is down quickly on strikes, and David Wells has 4 strikeouts already. Now let's go to Chris Myers.
Thanks, John. Budweiser takes us to Oakland. Pat Borders in the 8th inning for the Blue Jays with a 2-run double, and the Jays outscore the A's 13-11. Domingo Cedeno drove in 4. Terry Steinbach left with back problems. The Jays just 3.5 back of Detroit.
Wow. Wild one at the Coliseum, and so it goes for Tony La Russa's Athletics.
I mean, you'd go a week or two in the past without scoring 13 runs against the Oakland A's.
Yesterday, they faced their old friend Dave Stewart, and he beat him. Rich Amaral, the hitter. And that's a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. The A's had a game with Minnesota, I think it was Thursday, or let's see, Wednesday. And they blew an 8-5 lead in the 8th inning. And went back ahead in the bottom of the 8th and blew it again in the 9th inning. Amaral fouls it away. Amaral grounded to short his first time. That game today up there, this Domingo Cedeno now playing shortstop for the Blue Jays today. Drove in, as he said, 4 runs, had 2 hits. The Jays had 13 runs, 13 hits. Joe Carter hit his 13th homer. Olerud homer. Ed Sprague homer. Travis Fried has got a strong arm. Shows it off there to get the speedy Amaral. 2 men gone in the Mariners' 3rd inning. Again, And last night in Toronto, the Los Angeles Kings stunned the experts, beating the Maple Leafs 5-4 to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals against the legendary Flying Frenchman, the Montreal Canadiens. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, was the difference last night. 3 goals in the do-or-die game. They said during a timeout of that game, the crowd was so loud after Maple Leafs goal, the coach could not even be heard, Barry Melrose, and Gretzky just stood up on the bench finally and shouted, "There's no way that we're going to lose this game. It's in the bag." And then he went out and made sure. That'll be Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. The Los Angeles Kings, for the first time in a Stanley Cup playoff, facing the Montreal Canadiens, who seem to always be in a Stanley Cup final. Henry Cotto struck out his first time. 1 ball, 1 strike. And that's a ball, 2-1. I was just in Southern California, Joe. And the whole area is ablaze with talk about the Los Angeles Kings. And everybody kind of shaking their heads over it, saying, can you imagine we're excited about Kings hockey in June? Base hit. And that keeps the inning going for Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, Cotto gets a low fastball from David Wells and rips it into left field. I mean, he hit that ball awfully hard through the infield. Good swing and perfect contact.
It's ball 1. Griffey only 5 for his last 25. He's been struggling. Facing David Wells here, against whom he's hit well, even though he's a left-hander. He's 9 for 23 in his career against Wells. So around a .385 average against him.
So before the game, Ken Jr. was getting all over me because last year I picked an all-star team, and I didn't pick him as one of the 3 outfielders, and his mom, Birdie, is here, and he said, I'm going to have her get all over you about that. And I told him the reason I didn't pick him on the team, I was picking the winners from last year.
Oh, a low blow.
Yeah, it was kind of low. I picked Joe Carter and Bobby Bonds, Barry Bonds, and also also Kirby Puckett, my 3 outfielders. I don't think anyone can argue about them being on the team, but I agree with Junior that he's one of the better players in baseball.
And back to the bag is Henry Cotto. But that's also true that he's not played even so much as a pennant contender yet. Of course, you look at a guy like Barry Bonds. I mean, Barry was with some outstanding clubs there in Pittsburgh, and now he goes to the Giants, and all of a sudden they're outstanding.
You know, the toughest thing to understand about Griffey Jr., though, is, John, is that he has always been the man here since the day he came here to Seattle, and that's a lot of pressure on him because he had not yet reached manhood. He was still a boy, and he was the man, and all the pressure was put on him. So I don't know how good he can actually be until someone has a chance to relieve some of that pressure.
That's 3-0. Now, last night he walked 4 times. There's Ken Griffey Sr., the Mariners hitting instructor, and Junior's dad, and quite a player in his own right for many years.
Well, Sparky said to me that he was not ever going to let Griffey Jr. beat him again. And last night he said he walked him 4 times because he just wasn't going to let him hurt him. And that's what looks like what's happening here, too.
Yeah. A 4-pitch walk with a right-handed hitter coming up, Edgar Martinez. Ken Griffey Jr., only 23. Barry Bonds closing in on 29. But we thought it might be interesting to look at where they were in similar times of their career. This is after they both played 626 games. Bonds was 26 by then. See, Griffey's hit for a much better batting average than Barry did early. The home run's about the same, but Bonds, of course, was a leadoff man at first in Pittsburgh, and so Griffey's got a lot more RBIs. And, of course, he's got 3 years on Barry at the same level of experience as a big leaguer.
Well, I just think what those numbers say is that he reached star status a little quicker than Barry Bonds did. Doesn't mean that he's a better player, that, you know, because you take those numbers, when you have to just really, you know, you can't say this is how you grade a player in 626 games. I just think that he reached stardom quicker. But Barry Bonds now, we've all admitted, is the best player in baseball. And I think Ken Griffey Jr. will be the best player in baseball one of these days.
2-2. We're at the Kingdome in Seattle. Sunday Night Baseball. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan. And David Wells of the Tigers in a little trouble now. The runners are going, and they'll both make it without a throw. It's a double steal. Cotto third and Griffey to second. Cotto has always been an excellent base stealer. That's his third steal of this year. And for Griffey, his sixth.
You know, it is easier to steal third base with a left-handed pitcher on the mound than it is a right-hander. Most of the time, the left-handers have bigger leg kicks, and they're more stylish, and they have trouble picking you off at second base. And you see Cotto just got a great jump, took off, no throw, and Griffey Jr. into second.
So now David Wells is definitely in some trouble. He's got Buhner, who has a home run against him tonight, on deck. And the man at the plate, and we've said it a few times, is the reigning batting champ in the American League, Edgar Martinez. He walked to start a 2-run second inning rally. The infield stays back for the Tigers. We're only in the third inning. Wells for the windup. Kyler on the run. Cotto and Griffey stranded. Martinez hit it hard, got nothing for it. Still 2-2 after 3.
Third with 2 down. I disagree. First of all, there are 9 different ways that you can score from third with 2 outs that you couldn't score from second. So that gives you a better chance of scoring if you can get to third base, even with 2 outs. So I don't disagree with that play.
Tigers coming up here. Chad Kreuter, the batter, and he takes a strike from Tim Leary. Now, this is the same Chad Kreuter who continually was sent down to the minor leagues because he just couldn't hit big league pitching. Always a great arm, fine receiver. Now that is becoming the norm for Kreuter. He came into this game hitting .373. And I mean, Joe, that was his 120th at bat, and he's hitting .370 something.
And you mean that's his normal way of hitting, throwing the bat at the ball?
Well, he used to hold on to it, and he hit 190 every year.
Let's take a look at his swing here. The pitch, not a bad pitch. I mean, it wasn't down and away. It looked like it was in the middle of the plate, and he threw the barrel of the bat at the ball. Base hit. That's what happens when you're going good. You can let go of the bat.
Well, Kreuter is going to hit for second now. Rob Deere, the hitter. And Leary throws a wild one. See, all across America in the next month or so, with Kreuter having that kind of success, everybody will be throwing their bat at the ball like that.
You know, when I played for Sparky Anderson, we used to argue all the time about pitching versus hitting. And he wanted to tell me that pitching was 80% of the game. I said, maybe it is if you do not have great hitters. But if you have good hitters, I don't believe it's 80% of the game. And we talked today, and now he finally agrees with me. He's got some bombers over there.
Including Rob Deere, but this one is just a soaring fly ball. Tagging in second, Kreuter. Griffey with the catch. Kreuter's bluffing. One away.
That's another example of how great a player Griffey Jr. is. We didn't get a shot of it earlier, but when Kurt Gibson hit the double, his throw from deep left center field all the way to third on one hop. And see how he gets himself in a great position to throw. He doesn't wait to catch the ball and then get ready to throw. He's ready to throw as soon as he catches the ball. And he has a very strong and accurate arm.
That's one spot where I'd say he has the advantage over Bonds.
Right.
Got a little better arm. This is Livingstone, I presume. Ground ball up the first base side, and Tino Martinez gets the put out as Kreuter takes third. 2 down, and Milt Kyler coming up. The 9th place hitter. It's a 2-2 game in the 4th inning here. Well, you know, I talked to Gene Kleins, very fine hitter with the Pirates years ago. Now the hitting instructor for the Milwaukee Brewers, but he was the hitting instructor here for Seattle.
Right.
I asked him to compare Griffey Jr. and Barry Bonds. He said that's a foul ball. He said, well, for him, Griffey Jr. had the ability to be better than Barry Bonds. But the question would be, would he play hard enough always to be better than Barry Bonds? Because for him, Barry Bonds goes out and plays hard all the time. And Griffey, still young, still maturing. Swung into the alleyway, and Cotto makes the grab.
I'll address that when we get back.
All right. It's 2-2. Buhner will come up when we get back.
It's a great example. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. is bigger and stronger. Therefore, I think that's what he's talking about. Potentially, he can be a better hitter than Barry Bonds over the course of his year. Now, I think if you ask the question, will he always play hard? As you mentioned, he's still a kid. And the question is, did Barry Bonds always play hard from the first day he got here as a young kid? So I think that's what you have to look at. You know, I believe that they're both great players. And I think, as I said, Barry Bonds is the best player in baseball now. I think Ken Griffey will be the best baseball player in the world one of these days. But you have to realize he's 6 years younger than Barry Bonds.
Jay Buhner, the hitter, he hit a home run over the 4-0 foot sign and 405 foot sign at center field his first time. For the 2 Seattle runs. Takes a strike, 1 ball and 1 strike. Buhner now with 11 home runs, tied for 6th in the American League in that category. Curveball, bounce foul, 1-2. You know, when Gene Klein was talking about Griffey Jr., I had the feeling that he almost was talking about Griffey playing hard all the time and as a challenge to him.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of baseball people talk that way because they would like to challenge Griffey Jr. to play full hard out all the time. Strike 3 to Buhner to see just how great he can be. And Sparky Anderson was one of those who spoke of him in those terms. And in fact, we asked Sparky Anderson about the comparison between Bonds and Griffey Jr. It was interesting. Here's what he said.
I would like to stop the film right now on Bonds. Just stop him right in his tracks. And then let the youngster play 6 more years. And then I like to pop them both up. And when we pop them both up, for some crazy reason, I don't know why, I'm going to pop up Griffey. Because I just believe in 6 more years, we're going to see something on our hands that we're looking in the type of what it is.
You know, that's my feeling, John. I mean, I'm not, you know, I think you have to remember you have a mature Barry Bonds now, and you're still talking about a young Ken Griffey. When he matures, then I think you will have that comparison that Sparky's talking about.
Mike Blowers, the hitter, struck out his first time. And the count is 0-2. 1 out and nobody on. 4th inning. It's a 2-2 ball game. David Wells with 5 strikeouts now. Well, Ken Griffey Jr. And another difference between himself and Bonds is that he broke into the big leagues when he was 19. Barry was in college and before he got to the major leagues. But I think Griffey was more like some of the greats of the game from years past, breaking in early like that, like a Mays and an Aaron, a Frank Robinson. They broke in young because they had that extraordinary talent. And therefore, he also, if he stays healthy and continues to and plays hard and I mean, all of that stuff, has a chance to put up those great Hall of Fame type numbers.
Good point.
Down goes Blowers on strikes, and David Wells is looking awfully tough right now.
Well, since the home run, he's really gotten tough. He has struck out 4 hitters since the home run. There's the breaking ball. That's the hard curve ball, as he calls it. Throws a slow curve as well. That is the hard breaker down and in to the right-hander.
6 strikeouts in 3 2/3 innings for David Wells. And here is Tino Martinez. Tino has hit 10 home runs with 24 RBIs. Outside of Seattle, Tino Martinez is probably anonymous. Tino Martinez. I mean, even in the Mariners scheme of thing, it's the other Martinez who's well known. Edgar. Tino out of the Mariners farm system. And they think that he has a chance to be a really fine player, and he's on pace to have a 30 home run season right now from Tampa, Florida. To Jefferson High, the same high school that produced Fred McGriff, who's been known to hit a home run every now and then. Also went to the University of Tampa. Was a Division II All-American there. A lot of foul territory in this ballpark. Livingstone can't catch up to it. He played in the 1988 Olympics, did Tino Martinez. was kind of a disappointment as a rookie last year. Played all season, hit .257, had 16 homers. They were hoping for better. And right now he's acting like he's ready to produce better.
Very few players, except for the class that you talked about before, the Mays, the Aarons, and the Robinsons and so forth, you know, you don't come into the major leagues and just dominate. So it takes you a while to find your niche, and that's what it's taken Tino.
Interesting you mentioned dominate, because right now David Wells is starting to dominate the Mariners. He strikes out the side. Tough to hit the rest of this night. He struck out the side in the 4th, and he has 7 strikeouts in the first 4 innings, and that is the kind of pitching that he has provided for the Detroit Tigers. I mean, his record coming into play tonight, 6-1. You saw his numbers. Real tough to hit. Batters are hitting as a group 178 against him. Tony Phillips takes ball 1 from Tim Leary. And the incredible thing to me about Wells, he had walked only 13 coming into play tonight. He averaged about 1 walk every 5 or 6 innings.
And that's a good ratio for a power pitcher.
Tim Leary locked up with David Wells in a 2-2 tie. Amaral bobbles it, but throws out Phillips. Phillips is 0 for 2 with a walk now.
We were talking about David Wells before the ball game. He told me that one of the reasons he's doing so well this year is he's staying compact. And we'll take a look at him here. Let's stop it right about there. Stop it there. Now look at his front shoulder. Like a hitter, a pitcher has to keep that front shoulder in, because if you open up too quickly, then you don't have any power left. Look at that. That's almost perfect. See how free his arm was? Good arm motion. That was a good delivery by David Wells.
Here's Lou Whitaker. Whitaker hustled a single into a double his first time, and then he flied to right his last time.
John, a lot of people are not aware that a pitcher and the throwing motion is very similar to a hitting motion. You have to keep your front shoulder in to provide the power and the arm speed for your arm to come through.
That's a strike. 2-1. Well, many's a time you'll talk about a pitcher and they'll say, well, my mechanics are bad. I was flying open.
That's exactly what he's talking about. He's flying open like a hitter. A lot of times you'll see him and he's off balance.
Base hit for Sweet Lou. And he is 2 for 3. Yeah. There's 2 Sweet Lou's here tonight.
Yeah. And both of them could hit.
And one of them's getting sick of watching the other one. Lou Piniella now has seen Lou Whitaker go 6 for 7 the last 2 games.
Well, one of the things that I'm noticing is that both of the pitches that he has hit from Leary have been fastballs that were kind of up, not so much in, but up and out over the plate.
We mentioned guys that maybe are not well known around the country. I think here's one of them, Travis Fryman. High fly ball into deep right center field. Buhner all the way back at the scoreboard where he makes the catch. Now he throws back behind Whitaker. Not in time, but he almost got him. What a throw by Buhner.
Well, Griffey Jr. showed his arm tonight, and now we get a look at Jay Buhner's arm. He makes a very fine play on this. Went right to the wall, caught it. If he would have known a little quicker, he may have gotten Whitaker before he could get back to first base.
Look at that throw. Just
very
barely.
Close.
Hurry, Lou. Wow.
Just makes it.
2 men down, and Cecil Fielder comes up. Cess has doubled home run and struck out looking. The outfield, as you might expect, very, very deep. By the way, this Mariner outfield, and Mike Felder is usually the left fielder. Cotto in there tonight. The 3 of them lead the American League in assists. Buhner's got 4 assists. Griffey has 4 assists. And Felder's got 6. So all of them can and will throw you out if you take too many liberties with him. 0-1 to Cecil Fielder. It's interesting, Joe, that Fielder had 51 homers, then 44 the next year. Just a great year coming back. 35 last year in a year where he had a lot of injury problems.
Well, not only that, they're not going to let you just keep hitting home runs, John. They'll pitch around you sometime.
But he still drove in the runs last year. The RBIs, he's the first man since Babe Ruth to lead the league in RBIs 3 straight years. Cecil Fielder, 0-1 the count. 2-2 in the 5th inning.
One of of the things I like about Cecil is that a lot of people think that, well, he's just big and he's strong, but he also has a quick bat, and Cecil always gets the bat out in front. And he's very quick. He's quick around first base. Everyone looks at him and says he's big. He can't really cover a lot of ground, but he really does. He's quick at first base.
1 ball and 2 strikes.
And I've always felt you had to be either very quick or very strong to be a good hitter. And he has that good mixture. He has a quick bat and he's strong.
1 ball, 2 strikes. 2 down, Whitaker at first. A 2-2 tie. Cecil Fielder trying to untie it here. The infield really swung around toward the third baseline against him. Fastball, tried to sneak it by him, but he missed too low. Bullpen activity for the Mariners. There's the defense. You see the shortstop, Vizquel, way over into the hole near the third base line, and the second baseman, Amaral, almost right up the middle for him. There's Dennis Powell, the left-hander, up again in the Seattle bullpen. On deck is a left-handed hitter, Kirk Gibson. Top of the 5th inning, 2-2. The fifth, the fielder manages to fight that off. Pretty good pitch there by Leary.
Excellent pitch by Leary, as we mentioned the first time up. That's the place to pitch him if you can get it in there. And one of the problems with pitching the sluggers inside, though, John, if you miss by 6 inches and get that ball out over the plate, they're going to make you pay for it. So a lot of pitchers do not like to pitch inside to the sluggers.
That one toward that big wall in right field. Off the base of the wall. Whitaker to third. He'll be held up, and Fielder has to hold with a single. Buhner played the carom beautifully, and he hit his relay man, Amaral, with a perfect throw.
One of the great things about Fielder, let's take a look at his swing. Now freeze it right there. And one of the good things is his hands, he's already opened his hips. Now that lets his bat get through, fly through the zone. And there it is. That's a beautiful swing. Good extension. And he gets good extension. As long as the ball is out over the plate, you get the ball in on him, and that's where he had the problems. We saw him tied up a couple of times inside. But you get the ball out of the plate where he can get some extension, he will drive the ball on you.
And Lou Pinella's got the left-hander Powell ready with the left-handed hitting Gibson due up. 2-2 tie. The way Wells is pitching, Joe, I know that Pinella figures, hey, they can ill afford to fall behind at all.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, the Mariners haven't been scoring runs, as you mentioned earlier, so they cannot afford to fall behind this late in the ballgame.
Well, here comes the umpire, Cedarstrom, so we may be getting a change here. No? Pinella's going to stay with him. First and third, 2 down. Don't forget now, a Memorial Day doubleheader on ESPN tomorrow. The New York Mets, Bobby Bonilla, Eddie Murray and company, and Rhinos, Ryan Sandberg and the Chicago Cubs. 4 Eastern and 1 Pacific. That'll be tomorrow. Bonilla hit 2 home runs today for the Mets. Then the second game, the first place Phillies, best record in the majors versus the Cincinnati Reds, Barry Larkin and company. And Lenny Dykstra will lead that wild Philadelphia bunch against the Reds. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific tomorrow night. That's where Joe and I will be. Well, here it is now. Could be a key moment in this game. Kirk Gibson left to face Leary now, but you see Gibson has never hit well against Leary. Although, having said that, tonight he has an RBI double against him. There is Whitaker at third base, Fielder at first. Talking to Gene Roof, the coach. 2-2 in the 5th inning. Tigers have 7 hits. Gibson last time hit one sharply back at Leary and hit Leary and bounced to the second baseman.
You know, sometimes a manager will go to the mound and say, how do you feel? And I'm sure Leary said, I feel okay. He said, well, then throw the ball then. He has thrown harder to Kirk Gibson here than he has the entire ball game. The first fastball, Gibson could not get ready for it, and he's trying to overpower it.
Not foul off to the left. And that will go out of play. Blowers giving chase. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Kirk Gibson. Chad Kreuter would be next. 2-2 the score. Gibson doubling in the first inning, driving in the Tigers' second run. Pinella knows this is a big moment of this game. Adjusting his defense a little bit. He's adjusting his first baseman, Tino Martinez, who is deep started to move in a few steps. Well, here Martinez has moved up behind fielder.
Well, what he wants to make sure of here is that Sparky does not send field.
So Martinez over behind fielder now. Stretch by Leary. Look out, almost hit it.
And you can see the difference since Pinella's gone to the mound. He's throwing all fastballs, and he's trying to overpower Kirk Gibson. It was 92 miles an hour his fastball, and before that, it was not that fast. So he's trying to overpower, and that's a good fastball. Just the location is not good, but he was trying to bust him inside with a good fastball.
2 down, 3-2 the count. Whitaker at third. Fielder will be leaving first here. There he goes. And there's the off-speed delivery. Bounced off the plate and into the first base side dugout.
Good pitch, good location. He had thrown good fastballs before, and then he took something off the fastball, and he had the ball moving away on an off-speed pitch.
Chad Kreuter waits on deck. He's hoping to bat in this inning. Fielder runs right up the middle, and that will get the tie-breaking run home. Lou Whitaker comes in to score. Pretty good at bat there for the veteran Kirk Gibson, battling it out with Leary, and then just bisecting the infield for the RBI. 3-2 Detroit. Now Chad Kreuter comes up. In the Mariners bullpen, there's more activity now. We saw Dennis Powell, the left-hander. Now he's been joined by the right-hander. That is Dwayne Henry. Well, how do you figure, Joe? There's Kirk Gibson, 1 for 14 lifetime against Leary tonight. He's 2 for 3. And it certainly looked here like Piniella was going by the records, leaving Leary in to face Gibson.
I've always said, John, I don't believe 14 at-bats is enough to gauge whether a hitter can handle a pitcher or vice versa. I believe you have to get up over 20, 25 or more times before there is a real pattern, unless a guy is struck out like 10 out of the 14 at-bats, or the pitcher is not, he's got 10 out of 14 hits. So I really believe it takes a while before a pattern develops, and I'm sure Kirk Gibson wasn't even aware of that. Kirk Gibson probably feels that, hey, I can hit this guy, and I just haven't had enough at-bats to prove it.
Right. Well, plus a lot of Kirk Gibson's at-bats against Leary probably go back as far back as 10, 11 years. 2 on, 2 out. 1-1 the count to Kreuter. And that's a ball. Kreuter singled his last time. His batting average right at the moment is .375. Because he's hit so well and because he's such a fine catcher, Mickey Templeton, who only has led all catchers in the world in home runs the last 3 seasons, Templeton has become one of those versatile type players. He plays first base. He plays the outfield. Because Kreuter now is a part of that everyday Tigers lineup. They love the way he handles the pitchers. And of course, they love Templeton's big bat. He leads the club in RBIs, getting tonight off. So got a sunflower seed thing going over there. Off the hands and right back to Leary. That's the inning. But the Tigers, the big slugging Tigers, hit 3 singles and lead 3-2. Last of the 5th coming. This Memorial Day weekend for the Sunday night game, our stop for the year in Seattle. And in fact, our first stop here since the Mariners were taken over by the new ownership. The Nintendo people bought the Mariners last year. Here's Dave Valley, and they went out and they brought in some people for Lou Piniella. In fact, they brought in Lou Piniella, and that was not inexpensive. They brought in Chris Bosio, and all of a sudden, the Seattle Mariners, who lost 99 games a year ago, are looking at the likes of Randy Johnson, Eric Hansen, who's off to a real strong start this year, Chris Bosio, Dave Fleming, who won 17 as a rookie last year, is just back now. That's a pretty strong foursome right there.
As I said earlier, some people think that will be the best starting staff in the American League West once they get it together.
Dave Valley pops it up. Lou Whitaker out in a hurry. Look out. Whitaker and Deere collide, and Whitaker is slow getting up. single for Valley.
Well, as an infielder, you go until the outfielder calls you off, and that's what Whitaker does. He goes after the ball. Now he takes a look at Deere, and he sees that he's still away from him, and he tries to make the catch.
And he's down to the 9-yard line.
Yeah, but fortunately for Whitaker, his right foot was not planted when Deere hits him. Now watch his right leg. It will be hit by Deere sliding, but fortunately for Whitaker there, he's taking the pressure off that right leg, or else he would have been injured on this AstroTurf.
He took his eye off the ball there for a moment. I think he must have felt the earth shaking as Rob Deere approached. So a single for Valley, and looks like Whitaker's okay. We hope so.
Well, he's still flexing his right leg because that's where he was hit. And again, he's lucky that that leg was coming up instead of being planted on the AstroTurf.
Omar Vizquel, the hitter. What a fine career Lou Whitaker's put together.
Yes.
He'll be in fact, he just turned 36 this month. Vizquel struck out his first time. Into left center field. Tony Phillips. And Valley back to first.
Well, John, today when I had a chance to sit down on the bench and talk to Sparky Anderson, well, quite naturally our first thoughts went, about Tony Perez and the fact that he was fired in Cincinnati. And you know how I feel that it was unfair. And I've talked to Sparky, and I think he put it best. Sparky said, if there's someone in baseball who can judge a person's managerial abilities on 44 games, we found the smartest man in all of baseball. He said, but that also makes him the dumbest man because he was the guy that hired him. And that's the way Sparky plays with words. So, and he was very upset, obviously, as I was, about, Tony not being given a fair chance.
Here is Amaral. There are situations where you can see a guy getting fired after 44 games. Maybe he's coming back for his second year.
Yeah, if he's been there before, been there for a long period of time.
But you hire him and you say, the only reason you should hire him is because you think he's absolutely the best man for the job.
Right.
And then you give him only 44 games. It just seems obvious that you never did think that.
That's exactly right. So why did you hire him in the first place?
And a lot of theories about that. Amaral, the hitter, and he takes inside for a ball. 2-0 the count.
I guess the difficult thing for me, John, he was only 4 games under 500, but also John Smiley hadn't pitched as well as he's going to pitch. Tim Belcher hadn't pitched as well. A lot of guys, and Bip Roberts, who was their most valuable player last year, was injured. A lot of people had missed a lot of games, and now they're going to get healthy, and it will look like somebody else was doing a better job, and that's not true. That won't be the case.
2-0 the count to Amaral. And that's a foul. Of course, there's another aspect to it, too, Joe. We all attribute all of these different sinister conspiracy theories as to why Tony was hired, why he was fired, blah, blah, blah. Could be that with so much money at stake in that Cincinnati scheme of things, they have a very high payroll. And a young general manager with the poor start, panic may have set in.
That could be.
2-1 the count to Amaral. But again, even if panic had set in, if you really believe that he was your best candidate for the job, you would have stuck with him longer than that.
Yeah, 44 games is, I think the Braves were 4 games under 500 last year, and they went to the World Series. They were definitely.
They were 7 games under 500 right about this date.
Right, exactly.
20-27 they were. The Reds, when Tony was fired, were 20-24. And Amaral, the leadoff man, was grounded to short twice. He's 0 for 2. Valley, the runner at first. And that's foul ball. Still 2-2. National League, we mentioned Atlanta. The Giants split their games, but they won 2 of 3 in Atlanta. Braves are 5 back. Houston split 6 games playing the Rockies and the Marlins. Not a very good week for the Astros, where they should have been making up some ground. The Dodgers finally beaten today. They're right back in the race after an 11-game winning streak. And the Reds improving a little bit this week. 8.5 out, but still well within striking distance.
And you know what's interesting? If you would have told me the Dodgers would win 10 games in a row at any time during the year, we may have had a big argument. But
what if I told you they'd
back?
What if I told you they'd win 11?
well, then I'd really be upset.
3-2 the count to Amaral. You'd fire me.
Yeah, well, when they got to 10, I said, unbelievable. But I've said in the past, and I still believe that Tommy Lasorda is a much better manager than he ever gets credit for.
I understand the Florida Marlins have offered Tony Perez a job. And he said, what job exactly are you talking about? Runner goes. The ball is bounced right to Whitaker. Backhand to the second one. Fryman to first in the dirt. And Amaral is safe. And the catcher backed up that play. Kruger.
This shows the experience of a veteran second baseman like Lou Whitaker. With a right-handed hitter up there, normally the second baseman would cover on the hit and run. But Whitaker knows the situation, so he does not cover. And he's there for the ground ball to second. The throw to first base just in the dirt and not quite in time. You see Whitaker breaks to get the ball. He was not breaking towards second base. Thus, he's able to cover his position better. So good heads-up play by Lou Whitaker.
Two down now, and Henry Cotto. So difficult. Anytime Whitaker feeds the ball to second base like that, it's very difficult to say, to avoid saying, Whitaker to Trammell.
Yes.
Which we said for 15 years. The longest-running double-play combination in the history of Major League Baseball, and one of the best.
Yes.
I mean, almost by definition.
Well, you know, anytime the two players can stay together that long, they have to be very good players. And they have to be maybe the best because they get to learn each other's habits so well.
Curveball to Cotto misses. 1 ball, no strikes. Cotto 1 for 2 in the game with a steal. 3-2. The Tigers lead last of the 5th inning.
John, I think for the double play combination, rhythm is the most important thing. And by that, I mean, one guy, if he's real quick and the other guy is slow, doesn't work. I think you have to have 2 perfectly matched players, their quickness, and I think Trammell and Whitaker were perfectly matched.
Base hit. Heading for third and now holding up is Amaral. There, he held up because the kid's coming up. What's the point of risking anything with 2 down and the kid, Ken Griffey Jr., coming up?
Well, John, he's smarter than I am because I thought he should have gone to third, but you're right. The kid is coming up on the base hit. Now watch, he'll really round the bag with 2 outs. He's running as soon as the ball is hit, so it doesn't matter that Fryman barely misses it. Now watch, he has an easy shot at third, but he holds up. As we could see, Tony Phillips ran right in front of Milt Kyler, and there was no chance for Kyler to make a good throw to third base if he would have tried. But again, they have no place to put the kid this time, so they'll have to pitch to him.
And Billy Muffet, the veteran pitching coach of the Tigers, have to speak with David Wells. Remember now, Griffey has had success over the years. 9 hits in 23 at-bats against him. That's pretty good against any left-handed pitcher if you're a left-handed hitter. Griffey was walked in the 3rd inning on 4 pitches, and it seemed obvious that Wells wanted nothing at all to do with him. Griffey, he has been struggling, though, of late. His average is sunken to 284, and he's only hitting 231 for the year with men in scoring position. So here he is. Got 27 RBIs for the season. And he curves him for ball 1. Amaral, the runner at second, Cotto, the runner at first. They both run real well. So if Griffey could hit one into the alleyway somewhere, he'd probably get them both home here with 2 down. The outfield is very deep for Ken Griffey Jr. 9 home runs for the year. Curves him again. 2-0 the count.
Let me show you the reason that Ken Griffey Jr. has hit David Wells so well. Now watch how his front shoulder and his body stays in on this breaking ball. Watch, he just picks his front foot up and puts it back down. Look at that perfect hitting position right there. Look, his front shoulder's closed. That's why he has had so much success against Wells. Left-handers pull off most of the time.
Fastball, and it is 3-0. 2 men on, 2 men out. Amaral, the runner at second, Cotto, the runner at first, and Remember, they walked Griffey 4 times last night, and the last 7 pitches tonight have all been out of the strike zone to him.
And I tell you what, he's going to walk him again.
Well, that's Sparky's style.
Yeah, well, he's definitely going to walk him again.
3-1.
I think if I was Lou Pernella, I may have let him hit 3-0 because I don't think he's going to get another pitch to hit.
You know, Sparky's always said that big guy in somebody's lineup, that he's not going to let that guy beat him.
And I think that's smart managing. If that's the way you feel that strongly about a hitter in the opposition's lineup. See where Cruder was set up, low and away. And if you hit the target, okay. If you don't, that's okay too. So that was an excellent pitch there by David Wells, because the 3-0 pitch was on the inside part of the plate. Now the 3-1 pitch is knee high and away. And we'll see if he tests Griffey's patience here by trying another pitch low and away and see if he can get him to swing.
2 down. There go the runners. Struck him out.
Good pitching.
8 strikeouts for Wells. 3-2 Tigers after 5. See Powell's numbers. He's given up 5 home runs in 19 of the 3rd innings. Deere. Well, you see that a pitcher, a lefty particularly, facing Rod Deere, who's been giving up lots of home runs. It's going to be a frightening sight for Powell to see he comes in. Who's he facing? Not a lefty, Rod Deere. 3-0. He doesn't seem to want to face Rod.
Well, he's trying to run the ball away from Rob Deere, and he has missed with the 3 pitches.
He's got a lefty on deck, Livingstone.
You know, again, when you get late in the ball game, you have these sluggers coming up. You have to make sure that you keep the ball away. You do not want to come inside.
That's a foul. Oh, it's a foul ball.
Barely, John. That was a fastball away, and he pulled it just outside the bag at 3rd.
Hey, look who stopped by to see you, Joe. The Oak Ridge boys.
I'm sure they wanted to see you too, John.
Yeah, your biggest fan. We got Joe Bonzel and Dwayne Allen and Richard Sturban. And you guys be doing a show after the ball game, huh? So they're doing a show right after the ball game. And
my pleasure.
They never miss Sunday night baseball, Joe. That's a foul ball. Still 3 balls, 2 strikes. Sometimes they get offers for concerts on Sunday night, but they turn those down.
Just so they can watch Sunday night baseball.
Thanks for stopping by, guys. The Oak Ridge boys. Good to see you.
Have a good show. We'll be listening.
Right. They say the anthem before the game. They always do a great job. Rob Deere is down on strikes.
That was a beautiful pitch by Powell. He threw him all fastballs until he got to 3-2. Then he threw him a changeup down and away, but everything was away, so it's smart pitching. See, there's a changeup. You could see his fingers off the ball. And Deere out in front. See, this pitch goes down and away. Good pitch by Dennis Powell.
Livingstone. Ooh, ouch. Livingstone is 0 for 2, and now he's got a bruise. I hope it's just a bruise. Good crowd here tonight. 27,720. I think the ball game and the Oak Ridge boys.
Yeah, I was going to say probably some of them here to see the Oak Ridge boys perform after the game.
The Oak Ridge boys have 3 buses they travel around the country in, and they always tune us in. I guess they got a little satellite dish or something on the bus. Somehow they tune us in all the time.
Well, I think they should. We listen to them.
They owe us. 1 ball, 1 strike. Actually, you know what they said? They said it's not because they owe us. It's just they want to.
Okay.
That's even better. I always wanted to do that. I was thinking maybe you and I could go on the road like that. Maybe sing some of our favorite hits and get a big old bus and stuff.
I'll ride with you, John, but I will not sing.
The Sunday Night Baseball boys. Oh, you're right with me, but you won't sing?
I will not sing.
3-1 now to Livingstone. 3-2 the score. The Tigers lead the Mariners in the top of the 6th inning.
You know, John, we're talking about the success that Sparky Anderson has had with this Detroit team.
Griffey will come in a little bit now. I guess the wind held that one up. 2 down.
And Dan Marley came over yesterday. You know, they played
the basketball
Seattle.
player.
Yeah, they played the Seattle Supersonics today. He came over and he told Sparky Anderson, he said, look, Paul Westphal has one of your sayings, quotes, on the board in our locker room back in Phoenix. And Sparky says, which one was that? And he said, if you have a team that wants to win, just get out of the way and let them win. That's the Sparky Anderson quote. He says, get out of their way. If they want to win, get out of their way and let them go. And Westphal put that on the board, and he told his players that's what he was going to do.
Dan Marley grew up a Tigers fan, played at Central Michigan before he went to Phoenix. There's a ball to Milt Kyler. Kyler 0 for 2 with a steal, reached on a fielder's choice in the 2nd inning. 3-2 the Tigers in the 6th inning. Another tight ball game at the Kingdome. Each of the first 2 games of this series decided by 1 run. Tailing away, ball 3. Tony Phillips is on deck. Tony Phillips and Mike Moore of the Tigers went over to watch part of that ball game today. The Suns and the Sonics in town.
Sonics won.
Yeah, they nailed him. 3-1 now to Milt Kyler.
Let me tell you something else that Sparky Anderson said. He said right now he's playing a lot of different players at a lot of different positions, so they can all be fresh. He said, but after the All-Star game, he said he's going with a set lineup.
Griffey's got it. That's the inning. 3 up and 3 down. The Mariners have Edgar Martinez, Jay Buhner to lead it off when we get back. 3-2. The Mariners are trailing. Edgar Martinez missed 27 games with injuries last year, but still led the league with 46 doubles. He had 18 homers, 73 batted in. Just jumps off his bat when things are right. But coming off an injury, and he's just been playing now for the last week to 10 days. 1 ball, 1 strike to Edgar tonight. He has walked and scored, and he's lined hard to left center. The outfield kind of bunched toward center. On artificial turf, you generally see the outfield bunched toward center. They play way off the foul lines in artificial turf as a rule. Oh, nice pitch. 1 ball, 2 strikes. A slow curve from David Wells. There you see how the Tigers are aligned. Back of David Wells. Buhner, the slugger, on deck. Blowers due up 3rd in the inning. David Wells with 8 strikeouts. He's allowed only 4 hits. He's got 1 run over the Mariners. High and foul.
And deep.
The ball is right in on the hands, and he showed a pretty quick bat there, a little too quick.
It's very difficult to keep an inside pitch fair unless you really pull hard with your bottom hand. You can't roll over with your top hand. And the greatest I've ever seen at keeping that inside pitch fair was Hank Aaron. He could keep the ball 5 or 6 inches off the plate inside fair.
Foul ball. Still 1 ball and 2 strikes. Edgar Martinez. Once he gets it going, teams are going to have to think twice about pitching around Griffey Jr., as Sparky's been doing this weekend. That curve misses. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Then you've got Buhner, who's always a threat, hitting behind Edgar Martinez. And then, of course, Tino Martinez, who's got 10 home runs, hitting down the order. They have the possibility of being a pretty good offensive club. Three and 2 the count. Well, Martinez has been really battling for this count against David Wells. There is Jay Buhner, who has a home run tonight. He's on deck. Sparky Anderson still loves it. Still one of the best around. and 2 to Martinez. The pitch on the way. Base hit.
You know, there are a lot of hitters who drop their hands and they'll drop their hands down here and then try to get them back up. Watch what Martinez does. Watch where, here's a pitch. Hold it right there. See, his hands always stay above the ball so that he's always going into the ball. Beautiful swing. That's why he hits so well. See, his hands always above the ball. Nice swing.
Why, with a swing like that, I wouldn't be surprised if he won a batting championship
one of these days, right? Maybe 2 or 3.
I know I'm going out on a limb. Here's Jay Buhner. He blasted a homer to the deepest part of the ballpark his first time. Strike 1.
But that's also the reason that he doesn't hit a lot of home runs, because he keeps the barrel above the ball, and he's going to hit the top half of the ball and hit a lot of line drives. A lot of guys drop the bat a little bit, which creates a little uppercut in their swings, and that's the ones that hit home runs.
On the curveball, 0-2 the count. Well, Buhner provided the Mariners only 2 runs back in the 2nd inning. And here's how it happened.
That was more of a line drive there, John, but you could see him drop his back shoulder to get it under the ball.
It's not the typical Buhner home run. It didn't go about 12 miles high.
Right.
Didn't look like a launch from Cape Canaveral. Enormous power. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Buhner, by the way, in the month of May has hit 9 home runs. That's a club record for this month. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Jay Buhner. Look how deep in the batter's box he is, almost out of the batter's box. But fairly close to the plate there. And that opened stands. Strike 3 call. That's either the perfect pitch or just outside. It turned out to be the perfect pitch. Don't forget now, the 1993 French Open tomorrow, number 1 seed Pete Sampras versus number 16 Malachi Washington, who's coming off his win in the Lipton tournament. That's 9 o'clock Eastern in the morning tomorrow, 6 Pacific, the French Open on ESPN. That strikeout, the 9th strikeout for David Wells, that equals his career high. Here's Blowers. He struck out twice already. And they may get him again. It's 0-1. 9 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings. Only 2 walks. And as impressive as he has been, he's not feeling very comfortable right now. He leads by only 1 run. He's got Edgar Martinez at first base.
But he's pitched very well. He made the one mistake, if you could call it that, to Buhner.
Toward that big wall in right field. Off the wall. It skips on through, a double for Blowers. Martinez stopping at third.
Did you get a look at the guy?
Well, she thinks come back up. I think the image is improving.
I think some people do actually focus on remembering our veterans and focusing on our people who are military today. I think with
because I have to have custom forms for
second base, but the ball skips past Fryman, and Blowers is safe at second base.
Mike Blowers is the same man who became only the 13th player in Major League history to hit grand slam home runs in 2 consecutive games. He made the 16th at Oakland and then the next day in Texas. Tino Martinez, and here comes the tying run. And the Tiger bullpen starts to get busy.
Well, what happens when you're a pitcher and you want to go for the strikeout? You really want to snap off the good curveball. Watch this. He really snaps it off sharply, and it's in the dirt. No chance for Kruder to come up with it, and it bounces away, and the tying run scores, and the go-ahead run moves over to third base. But you try to overthrow your fastball or really snap off a good curveball, and that's when you get wild pitches.
Now the Tigers bring the infield in halfway. Although an artificial turf, this really passes for all the way in. And ball 2 to Tino Martinez. There you see how they play in the infield. Lou Whitaker's about halfway at second base. Everybody else is pulled in.
I think Whitaker's in the right spot because, as you mentioned, he's halfway. Because you figure if he pulls the ball, he's going to hit it sharper than he would if he goes the other way.
Tino Martinez, he's got 10 home runs for the year. His second year in the major leagues. But the Mariners as a team have not produced in these spots. Fans chanting Tino's first name. Oh, what kind of a swing is that on 2-0?
Well, 2-0, he's looking for a fastball. He's looking dead red, and he threw him a breaking ball. And a slow one at that, so he was committed.
So that's what I'm saying. Why was he swinging at all?
Well, he shouldn't have, but he was committed to swinging, and he was committed to a fastball.
I mean, that means you're looking fastball. That means you swing if you get the one you're looking for.
Well, logical.
Curveball. Strike 2 call. Well, with the swing that Tino Martinez had, you can see where the Mariners have not been hitting well with men in scoring position.
Now watch Martinez's front shoulder. And watch where it goes. Well, he kind of keeps it in there, but his knees buckles.
Runner at third, 1 out. It's tied 3-3, 6th inning. Foul ball. Buddy Groom, a left-hander, warming up in Sparky Anderson's bullpen. Tino hit a home run here Friday night, and he hit it into the third deck in right field. There's Buddy Groom warming up in the bullpen. That deck is so far away from the action, they don't even sell those seats. They put a tarp over them. Not many balls in the history of this ballpark have ever landed in the third deck. But Tino hit one up there. There's that third deck, way up there. The pitch on the way. Look out. It skimmed the bat, foul tip. No, it hit him. Kruder said that had hit the bat. He wanted the foul ball, strike 3. And the plate umpire, Cederstrom, said, yeah, it hit something, but it hit the batter. Take first base.
Well, good alert reactions by both Kruder and also by Cederstrom. See, the ball is inside, and it never really comes close to the bat. We heard the sound, so it had to have hit him. But good reaction by Kruder trying to get it to be a foul ball off the bat and then for strike 3. And a good job by Cederstrom for knowing that the ball did not hit the bat.
Now, Tino Martinez, the runner at first, has not stolen a base all year. Here is Dave Valley. Valley has struck out, and he has singled. Hit that little pop fly single into shallow right center his last time. See, he has not hit well in these RBI situations. A fly ball could get a run home here. Slow grounder could get a run home. Popped him up. That won't get it done. Whitaker. And the Mariners' woes continue in those RBI situations. Remember, we were here a couple of years ago when they were in the middle of a stretch like that. The game that night went 16 innings.
Well,
remember that?
Yeah. I remember all the things that happened that night.
Seems like it just
not scoring from third on singles.
Kind of seems like it just ended, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, Valley got a good pitch to hit. He just popped it up.
Is that over anxiousness?
Well, I think he wanted to, be the guy that drive in the run. But, the one thing you do not want to do if you're a hitter is go up and swing at a bad pitch. He got a good pitch to hit. He just missed it.
Here is Omar Vizquel. Struck out and flying to left center. 0 for 2. Look at that 271 average. He's become a pretty good hitter. Always noted as a glove man who just could not hit, but he's hit well the last 2 seasons. Oh, showing bunt. Curveball for a strike, 0-1.
Well, he did not have Livingstone fooled at third. Scott was charging on the play, so if you can't catch the third baseman off guard, you cannot bunt with 2 outs and a runner at third.
1-1 the count. 2 on, 2 out. 1 in, a 3-3 tie. He curved it. Foul ball. Now it is 0-2 to Vizquel.
One interesting thing is if you're a hitter and you watch the patterns that the pitchers use, and we've seen Wells go to the breaking ball when he's in trouble here. And that should tell you that he's not going to come after you with a fastball. He may now with 2 strikes, but until you get 2 strikes, you should be able to realize that he's going to try to get you out with a breaking ball.
That curveball too low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Amaral would be next. A single by Edgar Martinez. Then a 1-out double by Blowers that was almost a home run. And then the wild pitch brought home the tying run. Tino Martinez hit by a pitch. So Blowers is at third. Martinez is at first. 2 down. 1-2 the count. Just got a piece of that curveball.
I tell you what, he's not having very good swings at the curveball.
Has that been the case? Just stay with the curveball.
Well, I think you do, or you throw a fastball up and out of the strike zone where he can't possibly handle it. Because you may want to show him a different speed. You've thrown him 4 or 5 straight breaking balls.
Wells has worked hard tonight. He's thrown 107 pitches now. And we're in the 6th. He threw the fastball up and the grounded foul.
That wasn't what I had in mind. When I say up, I mean up about neck high.
Right. I have a feeling that Wells intended that too.
Right. Well, I saw the catcher give the sign up.
Didn't really hit his spot there. There is Blowers back at third. Tino Martinez over at first. Fielder on the bag with him.
Another breaking ball.
He was going to swing at that one if it was in the building. Mariners 0 for 4 with men in scoring position. Tony Phillips leads off when we get back. Pitch, boys. Joe David Wells tonight, 10 strikeouts, a career high in 6 innings, no less. But he's thrown 109 pitches now.
Well, when you strike out a lot of hitters, John, you have to throw extra pitches, and that's why he's over 100 with the 10 strikeouts. You know, now you have to start watching him very closely and see if his fastball still has some pop on it. He looks like he still has a curveball, but you can't get by with 1 pitch for the last 3 innings.
So that will be the question indeed. And Sparky has run through his bullpen the last 2 nights here. Tony Phillips, the top of the order against Dennis Powell. And did he strike 1? Now they have held Phillips without a hit tonight, but he does have a walk. Somehow he's going to get on base. And quite often it is with the walk. He leads the American League in walks.
Sparky made another interesting statement to me, John. He said, we just destroy mediocre pitching. So obviously that tells you that Seattle has better than mediocre pitching, especially the last 3 nights, and we've agreed with him on that.
They had 1 series back in May, when was it, early May or back in April?
In April.
They faced Minnesota in a 3-game series, and the Twins were not pitching well. They've got some good pitchers, but they're mediocre in the middle relief. And in a 3-game series, the Tigers scored 45 runs against the Twins. A slider in the dirt from Powell. 1 ball and 2 strikes. The Tigers have scored 20 runs on 2 different occasions this year. They also had a ball game with the Twins where they were down 5-1 in the 7th inning. And they ended up scoring 16 runs in that game. Got 8 in the 7th and 7 in the 8th. 2-2 to Phillips. Both bullpens are busy now. There's the right-hander warming up in each bullpen. 2-2 to Phillips. Whitaker on deck, then Fryman. Tigers figure they're about ready to explode. They've not scored many runs this week. He's capped. Throws out Phillips. There is 1 away. Now let's go to Chris Myers.
All right, John Miller, Genuine Draft, MGD, presents this date in baseball. 1966, the Tigers' Denny McClain pitches the second 1-hitter of the month for him as the Tigers beat the Royals 5-2. Denny, of course, won 20 games that year. Let's go back to Joe and John.
All right, thanks, Chris. And here is Lou Whitaker. 4 hits last night and a single and a double tonight. He doubled in the 1st and scored, single in the 5th and scored. 3 game. He no longer faces left-handed pitching.
Well, he doesn't start, you know, as you mentioned, against left-handers. When there's a left-handed starter on the mound, he usually does not play. He'll come off the bench.
Curveball for a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. There is Jeff Nelson, big right-hander, warming up in the Mariner bullpen. And David Haas, also a right-hander, heating up for the Tigers. Strike 2 to Whitaker.
And you can see that, you know, he is being bothered by Powell because he has not faced a lot of left-handers lately. And he's having difficulty picking up the sidearm breaking ball.
There it is again. 2-2.
A lot of hitters have trouble picking up the sidearm breaking ball, but I think Lou Whitaker over the years has always been able to handle left-handed pitching pretty well.
Strike 3 call.
Well, that surprised me that he didn't get a chance to swing at any of the breaking balls. He took 3. See, this pitch comes from the side, or sidearm breaking ball, and it catches the outside part of the plate about knee-high. See, it's breaking away from Lou Whitaker, and Lou was already bailing a little bit. But again, that's because he wasn't picking up the ball well.
With the right-handed hitters, Fryman and Fielder coming up, the right-handed Jeff Nelson gets the call. We'll be back.
The word is out. Nobody beats Classic Mazda.
Called a ball to Travis Fryman. 2 down and nobody on. Jeff Nelson on to pitch for the Seattle Mariners. Nelson from Baltimore, Maryland, originally. Fryman loops one. Base hit. Look out. Got to be careful on the turf. Well, that keeps the inning going for Cecil Fielder. And Lou Piniella wanted this right-hander to face these right-handers. Well, Fryman has crossed him up with a single. First hit for Fryman. And here is Big Cess, who has a double and a run batted in and a single. 2 for 3. 3-3 the score. Top of the 7th. We've moved into the late innings now. See Randy Johnson behind Fielder there. Johnson, back problem crops up now and again. He might get pushed back a day in his next start. Slider to Fielder outside for ball 1. Valley retrieves it. Jeff Nelson has not allowed a home run this year. And the right-handed hitters so far this year are hitting right around 200 against him. He's been tough on the righties. That's why he's in there right now. Base hit down the line. It will go to the wall. Fryman to third. He'll be held up there. Fielder still moving in towards second. Going to be there soon and in there.
Well, Cecil's shot is swinging the bat very well. It helped a little bit that they're guarding the line, as you can see in the late inning. This ball is smoked. You can see the reaction time. They're at third base. And really, here's Cecil. He decides, well, I'm going to make second. And he chugs into second base with a double. It's his second double of the ball game.
It is the 5th Tigers double of the game. And the left-handed batting Kirk Gibson due up in the Mariners bullpen. A left-hander is warming up. And there he is, Norm Charlton, the ace of the bullpen. And here comes Piniella onto the mound. Gibson coming up. Looks like we'll see Charlton. Charlton ordinarily the closer. Normally he's the closer for the Mariners, but he hasn't worked since Wednesday. And right now the thing they need to save is the tie in the 7th inning, with Kirk Gibson coming up and runners at second and third, and Charlton in the game.
And if they can't get out of trouble here, they will not need a closer in the ninth.
Gibson 2 for 3, 2 batted in. A little bit low, ball 1.
And Charlton, of course, was part of the Nasty Boys, Randy Myers and Rob Dibble being the other 2 when he was with the Cincinnati Reds.
Whoa. Right past him. 1 ball, 1 strike. I'll never forget the lingering memory of the 1990 Reds championship season was Charlton running through a stop sign at third base and throwing his shoulder into Mike Socha at home plate and knocking the ball away from him. And coming out of it unscathed. He got Gibson swinging strike 2.
And we talked about how well Ken Griffey kept his front shoulder. And watch what happened with Kirk Gibson. Watch him pull off. See, he's already gone right there. He pulls off the ball, and that's why he's having trouble with left-handers. 94-mile-an-hour fastball will give you some trouble, though. But another reason is because he doesn't face left-handers on a consistent basis.
He's been a platoon player. 2-2. Kirk Gibson has faced Charlton, of course. In his National League days, Gibson 2 hits, 8 at-bats, and he has a home run against Charlton. Runners at second and third, a tie game, 7th inning. Up the middle, base hit. Ryman scores. Here comes Fielder. Here comes the throw by Griffey. And all that does is allow Gibson to go to second. 5-3 Detroit. Kirk Gibson always has been a clutch player, and again here tonight.
It's an interesting choice of pitches by Charlton. He has a good breaking ball. He has a good palm ball, and he throws him a fastball, a low fastball. And it hits the inside part of the plate. And the only pitch that I felt Gibson would have been able to hit was something on the inside, because he bails a little bit. You see the reaction of Sparky saying, "Come on, Cecil, we need that run." And there you see, now he knows he's got 2 more runs.
And that brings up Chad Kruger, switch hitter. Swings wildly, 0-1. Kruger 1 for 3. Well, Griffey Jr.'s wild throw putting Gibson into scoring position, too.
Well, actually, the throw wasn't that wild. I think he just made up his mind he was going to go. And when the throw was coming in, he just said, "I'm going to second base."
Kirk Gibson has driven in 4 runs tonight.
And if you're Gibson and you see Cecil Fielder trying to score, you want to make them cut the ball off anyway and get you if you can.
Well, was the ball a ball they could have cut off?
Oh, you mean the throw to the plate?
Yeah. Griffey's throw. 2-1. Did he overthrow his cutoff man?
There wasn't any, no one was in line there. The throw came right to the mound, and no one was there. I see what you're saying.
2-1 to Kruger. Griffey's got this one zeroed in, and the inning is over. But the Tigers get 2 runs to break the tie. They lead 5-3. Griffey will be due up third when we get back. ESPN's presentation of Sunday Night Baseball is being brought to you by Miller Sharps. Miller Sharps gives you great beer taste anytime. And by the more than 600 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the right parts at the right price. Time out with Joe Morgan from the Kingdome in Seattle. 5-3 Detroit ahead as we go to the last of the 7th, and the top of the order is coming up for the Mariners. Rich Amaral, and then Henry Cotto is due up next, but we'll probably get a pinch hitter because a right-hander has come on to pitch for the Tigers. David Haas in relief of David Wells. And there is ball 1. From David Wells, 6 innings, 3 runs allowed, 10 strikeouts, a career record. And it's his game to win now, but the Tiger bullpen is going to have to get the job done. They were unable to get the job done here Friday. They took a 3-1 lead into the 9th inning, and the Mariners tied the game in the 9th and won it in the 10th.
You see he's had a lot of base runners, 34 base hits and 23 innings pitched.
And ball 3 now. That's what Sparky wants to see with a 2-run advantage here. We were talking about Griffey's throw home on the play, and allowing Gibson to go to second. We've got some angles to show on that. Ball 4. Let's take a look now what all is going on.
Well, I thought the throw was low enough to be cut because the catcher ran out to get it. Now let's take a look at it. Now Griffey will come up and fire, and I still believe the throw could have been cut off, but they thought they had a shot at Cecil Fielder at the plate. See, that's not too high. Now watch, the cutoff man will duck, so it can't be too high. But see, he ducked, so it can't be too high. Plus, he was in the wrong position.
So what you're saying is the first baseman had committed to letting the throw go through.
Right. They were going to let the ball go through because you figure you got a shot at Cecil Fielder, and you're already down by 1 run, and if Fielder scores, you're going to be down by 2. So it doesn't really matter whether Kirk Gibson goes to second base or not.
But also the first baseman made a mistake. I mean, they had no shot at fielding.
No, exactly.
He's got to gauge it better than that.
And he was in the wrong position, actually, to make the cutoff.
Buddy Groom, a left-hander, warming up in the Tiger bullpen. A switch hitter, Tiny Felder, has been entered into the game for Cotto. And there is Groom and Sparky Anderson out to talk to Haas. Sparky cannot like what he's seen from Haas so far. Come right into the game and walk the first man he faces.
Well, he's going to give him at least 1 more batter anyway.
Felder, a speedster. He was with the Giants most recently. Spent a number of years with the Milwaukee Brewers. Kind of a useful player. Good outfielder. Yes. Steals bases. And he's pesky as a hitter.
Well, he's a very good player. I mean, I really like him. He can do a lot of things for you, as you mentioned. Play a lot of positions as well. Plays the outfield and can, in an emergency, play short and second. Well, especially second.
Lou Piniella wanted him because this Mariner club did not have much speed. And Haas gets a strike, 0-1. Felder is 1 for 8 as a pinch hitter. Count. Yeah, he's got a fan club and everything here. Ball is high. Remember the Milwaukee Brewers, he was given the nickname Tiny. And he's not really, but say if you compare Mike Felder with Cecil Fielder, he is tiny. Got a tiny strike zone, I'll say that. 30 years old, born in Vallejo, California. There goes the runner. Base hit. And Griffey is coming up. They've got the lefty warming up in the bullpen just for him. I don't think we'll see Sparky sitting there much longer.
Now, this is interesting because being 2 runs down, they try hit and run. Piniella very aggressive, and with the hit and run, the ball goes through the infield. As we see, Whitaker tries to get it, can't. And moving on around to third base is Amaral. And the catcher has decided what he wants to do. There's Sparky shaking his head.
He's got the lefty Buddy Groom up in the bullpen. But again, this Tiger bullpen has been used a lot. Well, here comes Sparky, and Griffey's going to have to face the lefty. 5-3 Tigers. Runners at first and third, nobody out. The kid is coming up. Tigers 5, Mariners 3, but 2 men on and nobody out, and Ken Griffey Jr., the hitter, and to center stage, Buddy Groom, 27 years of age. Just up from the minor leagues recently. A strike now. Here on Friday night, Sparky used 6 relief pitchers. Last night, he used 4 relief pitchers.
Well, they didn't call him Captain Hook in Cincinnati for nothing.
Well, he's got 12 pitchers on his staff now.
Good pitch.
2 strikes to Griffey. He's grounded to first, he's walked, and he has struck out tonight. 0 for 2. The Mariners are in a stretch where they just have not hit with men in scoring position. Gibson alone tonight has destroyed them, hitting with runners in scoring position every time. And Griffey is down on strikes on 3 pitches.
Well, he took the first breaking ball to get a look at Groom, and then all of a sudden Groom started making good pitches.
Now Sparky's got the bullpen going again. There's Gibson and Skeeter Barnes.
Now watch this breaking ball. This is a ball, but it's a good 0-2 pitch because it starts in the strike zone and breaks out. Now watch, Griffey doesn't pull off. He just doesn't get to it. It's a bad pitch.
Kurt Knudsen has been called in for the bullpen. He's worked in each of the first 2 games of the series. Runners at first and third, 1 out now. Another new Tiger pitcher, Kurt Knudsen. Edgar Martinez. Martinez has walked and scored, singled and scored. Overall, 1 for 2. Knutson just caught up in the minor leagues 8 days ago. This is the 4th consecutive Tigers game in which he has pitched in a 5-day period. They had Thursday off.
Well, I think Sparky still has a little of that National League managing in his system.
That one misses, and it is 2-0. Here are the runners. Amaral, the runner at third. Felder, the runner at first. He is the possible tying run. That's Felder along with Fielder. And there's Captain Hook. Well, 7 pitchers he used Friday, 5 last night, and 4 so far tonight. The sinker's in there, 2-1 now. Knutson out of the University of Miami, that great baseball program Ron Frazier ran for so many years. Lives in California. Made his way through the Tigers farm system all the way back since 1988. The infield double play depth. Looks like a guy who gets some ground balls when he's right.
Yeah, a good sinker, and he keeps the ball down. That's the important thing.
One time against this batter, Edgar Martinez, he didn't, apparently. Last year, Martinez hit a home run against him. Knutson has had 4 chances with Martinez, and Martinez took him deep one time. To 3 Tigers, 7th inning. There goes Felder. Strike called. 2. Amaral holding at third. Now they're both in scoring position. A base hit could tie the game.
Well, what happened was Felder took off, and he gets a pretty good jump at first base. Now Martinez takes the breaking ball in the middle of the plate. As you can see, the tag is on the back of the leg and his hand's already in. He was going to hit, but he thought it was going to be a fastball, but it was a breaking ball. So he took it.
Now 2nd and 3rd, the 3-2 pitch. Struck him out.
Another breaking ball. So he got behind in the count, and then he made some pretty good pitches to retire Martinez.
Now Buhner. Edgar Martinez unable to so much as bring home the run with a ground ball would have scored him. A fly ball of any kind of depth at all. In the last 2 nights against the Tigers, Mariners hitters have 1 hit in 18 at-bats with a runner at second or third or both. 1 for 18 of those RBI situations. Buhner, slider, strike 1. Buhner, a long homer in the 2nd. But struck out in the 4th and again in the 6th.
As an RBI man, when you walk up there in that situation, you've just seen the guy throw a lot of sliders. You can't take a slider on the inside part of the plate for a strike. That pitch was one that Buhner could have really hurt him on, breaking ball right on the inside part of the plate.
5-3, Tigers. Mariners have the possible tying runs in scoring position with 2 down. Will get one of them home. Well, the Tigers have been doing for the Mariners what they've been unable to do for themselves. That's the 2nd time a Mariner run has been wild pitched home.
Well, that's a breaking ball, and he tries to really snap it off. I still think that ball should have been kept in front of him by the catcher, Kruder. He tries to backhand it. Now watch. Why don't you just get your body over in front of that pitch? You see, he tried to backhand it, hit off his glove, and bounced away. He should have been able to move over and block it with his body.
Fouled away by Buhner. 2-2 in that spot. I remember Rick Dempsey.
Yeah.
Great catcher for a long time.
Would have blocked it.
He used to say, hey, in a spot like that, even if the ball is in the dirt, if it gets past me, they should call me for a pass ball.
Yeah, that pitch should have been blocked. I'm not being overly critical here, I don't believe, because I've watched most catchers that I've known that were real good catchers would have blocked that pitch with their chest. You get over with the entire body, not just reach there with your backhand.
Billy Muffet out to chat. Don't forget now, the Stanley Cup Finals begin Tuesday night right here on ESPN. Wayne Gretzky will try and slip it past the great goaltender of Les Canadiens, Patrick Roy. That'll be Tuesday at 7:30, 4:30 Pacific, right here on ESPN. Should be a Stanley Cup final to remember. Wayne Gretzky almost single-handedly getting the Kings there with a virtuoso performance last night at Maple Leaf Gardens. Tuesday night from the famed Montreal Forum. Don't miss it. All right, the count, 2-2 to Buhner. Popped him up. Deer, and that ends the inning. So the wild pitch is the only way they score, and they just cannot get that big hit. Sunday Night Baseball scorecard through 7 innings. 5 runs, 11 hits for Detroit, 4 runs, 7 hits for Seattle. The Mariners have left 5 in scoring position and are 0 for 7 in those at-bats. Kirk Gibson alone has 3 hits with men in scoring position and 4 RBIs for the Tigers. And here come the Tigers with Rob Deere taking ball 1 from Norm Charlton. Gibson had to face Charlton with 2 strikes. Gibson singled to center and a fastball breaking the tie. 5-4 the score now. The ball is low. 2-0. Well, Joe, if nothing else, something you brought up earlier in the telecast about the Mariners with their double steal with 2 down, about the 9 ways a runner could score from third, but he couldn't score from second.
Yeah.
The Mariners, we've seen them score twice from third tonight on wild pitches.
So they've used one of those ways.
Used one way twice.
On our plane ride tomorrow, I'll ask you the other 8.
Uh-oh, it sounds like a test. So now I have to spend tonight's studying. Whoa. The earth shook as Deere took a mighty cut. 2-2. Deere has doubled, flying to left center, and struck out. Norm Charlton, he has 9 saves, but he had not worked in a ball game since Wednesday. And he was a bit at odds with Piniella earlier this year when he was not working regularly. Curveball misses. 3-2. He would often go 6 days without working because he just didn't have the save opportunities. And 3-2 pitch to Deere.
I think that's
a 3 call. And Deere says, hey, let's get serious, man.
Let's see if Rob Deere can get some fans at home to agree with him that this pitch is a ball. And Rob thinks it's low. People at home can be a judge. I was going to say this points out how good a draft it was for the Florida Marlins to take Brian Harvey. He has 15 saves already and has done a great job for them. They don't have that many wins, so I think it was a great pick now. I didn't think that was, what they were going to do at the time, but I think it's a great pick.
Yeah.
It has become a great pick.
It's really one of the main differences between their record and the Colorado Rockies. Yeah.
Exactly. Colorado
and for that matter, between their record and the Mets.
Yeah.
They're about 4 games up on the Mets. 1-2 to Livingstone. He's 0 for 3 tonight. Look out.
That was close. There's Sammy Ellis. He is the pitching coach. There's a fastball, and this one is up and in.
Well, that's ugly.
Yeah, but it's funny, John, is when a ball is head high, it's very difficult to get hit. The easiest part of your body to move is your head.
Charlton strikes him out. 2 down. It's funny, Joe, you talk about hindsight and second guessing, but you go back to that 7th inning, you think Lou Piniella is wondering himself. He had Dennis Powell in relief. He had retired everybody he'd faced 5 in a row.
Right.
He had 2 down, no trouble, nobody on base. And then he decided with a couple of right-handed hitters, 5 in the field, he'd bring in a right-hander. Now he went from a guy who got everybody, right-handed and left-handed, and Nelson couldn't get anybody. Gave up a single and a double. Then he brought in the left-hander Charlton for Gibson, and Gibson singled. on the bunt. Tino Martinez has it. That's the inning. 3 up, 3 down. Flowers, Tino Martinez, and Valley coming up. 5-4, Detroit. At the Kingdome in Seattle, 27,000 plus here tonight. John Miller, Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. 5-4, the Tigers in first in the East, leading the Mariners 4.5 out in the West. Next Sunday, the Cubs and the Expos in Montreal at Olympic Stadium. We'll see Ryan Sandberg, Mark Grace. The Cubs, you know, I've been watching some of those hitters over there. Derek May and Jose Vizcaíno. I got 4 guys hitting about 320 or better in that club. And the Expos, too. And they got a lot of guys hitting well.
Should be an interesting slugfest. And again, as you mentioned, Sandberg just getting back, just getting in the groove. So should be an interesting ball game.
Cubs beat the Expos today 5-2 at Wrigley Field. Here is Mike Flowers. He blasted one off that big right field wall. Remember, we had that wall at Joe Robbie Stadium. People were trying to find a name for that. The big wall in Boston is always called the Green Monster. That's a foul ball on the bunt. Here in Seattle, when they first erected the big wall in right field, because it was such an easy home run to right field. It's still pretty easy now, even with the big wall out there. They said, let's think up a name for the wall. People wrote in the names. I guess they had a contest out of it. You know the name that won?
What?
The Walla Walla.
The Walla Walla Wall?
There's a city in the state of Washington,
right.
Walla Walla, Washington.
I've heard of that.
I kind of liked it.
Well, I don't think it fits baseball. The Walla Walla Wall, I don't think that fits well.
Got to find us a guy who can hit the Walla Walla regularly. Lou Piniella. He's got or his ball club has the first pick in Thursday's free agent amateur draft. And here are projected top 5 picks, a pitcher out of Wichita State. And some like that shortstop, Alex Rodriguez, the best of all coming out of high school. But most people think that the Mariners, who had the first pick, will take the pitcher from Wichita State, Darren Dreifert.
Well, that's who Piniella wants.
And, of course, the Mariners have had that #1 choice a few times. Back in '87, they picked Ken Griffey Jr. with the first pick in the entire draft. They also picked Mike Moore in 1981. He worked out pretty well. On the other hand, Joe, they've also picked guys like Al Chambers. Never heard from him in the major leagues. They picked Calvin Jones. He's had some big league experience, but never for very long. And so on. It's great to have the first overall pick, but it puts a little pressure on your front office to do it right. The Dodgers have the 2nd pick. The Angels have the 3rd pick. The Phillies have the 4th pick. Boy, the rich get richer, huh? The Angels are in first place. The Dodgers just had an 11-game winning streak ended. The Phillies are in first place. And they've all got first-round picks.
As Bill Kruger, as you take a look at his record, he's given up 41 base hits in 35 innings. Kruger got off to a great start as a starter last year for Minnesota, and then he ended up here in Detroit.
Well, Sparky doing just what we were talking about Piniella doing. His previous pitcher, Knutson, retired 3 straight hitters, 2 of them with strikeouts. But now he's going for the left-hander here with Tino Martinez. Of course, Tino could tie this ball game up with that Walla Walla. So close in shallow right field. Don't forget now, right after the ball game, stay tuned for Sports Center. Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann will have all of the news for the world of sports. The Indianapolis 500 and Sun Sonics Game 4 played right here in Seattle. And Barry Bonds, he had a big day and a big weekend, as did his Giants, against the 2-time defending National League champion Braves. The Giants won 2 out of 3 there. All right, so here is Kruger and Tino Martinez with 10 home runs. See if he can tie it up here. He's strike.
Kruger has a good fastball and a big slow curveball and a changeup that he throws.
He's the 5th pitcher of the night utilized by Sparky Anderson, and the 14th relief pitcher utilized this weekend by Sparky. And this isn't any like 7-game series we're playing here. This is a 3-game series. And his Tigers have allowed 11 runs in 3 games. Not like the Mariners have been clobbering anybody. Maybe that's Sparky. It's worked for him.
Well, Sparky, like all managers in the major leagues right now, think that probably their weakest points are usually their middle relief. And I think Sparky, as he said to me before, he's trying to find out who will fit well for the stretch run. I know you may think it's a little early, but that's the way Sparky thinks. As I said, he was going to, continue to use different lineups until the All-Star break. And after the All-Star break, he said he's going to know who his best 25-plus players are, and he's going to go with them.
Well, Earl Weaver did it that way for many years with great success. Down the right field line. Extra bases.
Fastball on the inside part of the plate. That's good hitting by Martinez because he was able to keep that ball fair, and it was way inside. And it stays straight down the line. You didn't see that ball hook because he didn't roll over with his top hand.
And again, the Mariners in a spot where they need a base hit with a man in scoring position. They're 0 for 7 in these at-bats tonight. The curve from Kruger high. Well, the best laid plans of Piniella and Anderson tonight, 2 experienced managers highly thought of, and it's just not working out. They bring in just the man for just the hitter, and that hitter gets the hit.
But I have to agree with you. I think in Sparky's case here with Martinez up, who has 10 home runs, maybe not a bad move to bring a left-hander in to pitch to him. What, as you mentioned, before with, Piniella, it was a whole different story, I believe. Well, it was a little different in that Fryman is not a noted home run hitter. He can hit the ball out of the ballpark, of course.
Fouled away. The Mariners, not to belabor the point, but just to explain what Valley is facing here. They're all well aware of it. They've been slumping anyway, in general. But they have been particularly poor in a spot where a base hit can mean a run. And tonight, 0 for 7 in those at-bats. They were 1 for 12 last night. And they lost that game 3-2, a painful loss. 1 hit in 19 at-bats the last 2 days in an RBI situation where just a single could mean a run. Look out! So Valley hit hard.
He seems to be in a lot of pain, which means it probably got him near a bone. You can see him grabbing his left wrist. The ball was inside, and he tried to protect himself by putting his hand up, and it seems to have gotten him on the left wrist, the left hand. Anytime they go down like that and hold it for a long time, it means it's very near a bone, if not on the bone. Let's take a look at the pitch. It's a fastball inside. Now watch the pitch starts way inside. And well, it looks like it got him on the elbow, but he was holding his right wrist, his left wrist. See where it gets him. Yeah, his elbow is leading. Yeah, seems to have got him on the elbow. May have gotten his funny bone, if you want to call it that.
Rick Griffin, the trainer, had gone out, and Griffin has taken him back into the clubhouse. Bill Hasselman will go in to run. Hasselman, the man who drove in the winning run for the Mariners in the 10th inning here Friday. By the way, that's the 4th batter that Kruger has hit this year in 35 innings. Well, Hasselman, you may not have heard of him around the country, but
yeah, they've got Hasselmania
here in the home of Hasselmania.
Hulkamania, huh? Like Hulkmania?
Livingstone got a pitch right over his head in the first half of this inning. No Bridgton. Now Valley, the catcher, you can't throw at a pitcher. You can throw at the catcher, though.
You can't throw at a pitcher in the American League.
Omar Vizquel to hit it. That's ball 1. 5-4. Tigers ahead. Both bullpens are quiet for a change. Base hit by Vizquel could tie this game. Tino Martinez at second. He's got a fairly long lead. Kruger gets it in there for a strike, 1-1. Kruger came off a baseball scrap heap with the Mariners 2 years ago. For much of the year was their best starter. Then last year, picked up by the Twins, and he did real well with them at the beginning. They traded him to Montreal finally for a prospect. And the Tigers picked him up this year. He got off to a great start with them as a starter. And now in the bullpen. 2-1. Kruger behind in the count. There is Tino Martinez, the possible tying run. He's at second base. Hasselman, the cause of Hasselmania here in Seattle, gripping the entire Pacific Northwest. He's the possible go-ahead run. Vizquel trying to get that elusive hit. And even if he'd gotten the hit with the bunt, that wouldn't have gotten it done.
There you see Lou Piniella. I'm not sure if he's happy with that attempt. There you see 7 of the last 10 losses have been by 1 run, but I'm not so sure if he would have been happy if Vizquel would have dropped the bunt down.
Out of play, foul ball. Second deck off to the right, 3-2 the count. All right, now you're Lou Piniella. Do you send those runners? The pitcher's not really a strikeout pitcher. Vizquel is a pretty good contact man.
Well, I think Lou is probably considering it simply because they have not been able to score runs any other way. And if you do send the runners, you will open up a hole someplace, if not 2 holes. Some teams will not cover at second base.
There they go. And there it is through the hole, base hit. Martinez heading home. The throw. It's tied up.
As I said about Piniella opening up a hole, and he does so because Lou Whitaker moved closer to second base, and Vizquel finds the hole on the right side. You can see how close to second base Whitaker was, so he was going to cover second base. And with the single coming in to score the tying run is Martinez, and moving around to third is Valley. And now a fly ball can give them the lead that they have been seeking since the first inning.
And if they get that man home, it will be the man hit by Kruger.
Yes.
Whether it was retribution or not.
I don't believe it was.
It will, whatever it was, is hurting the Tigers right now.
Yes, but I don't believe it was intentional for Kruger to hit him. I think he just made a bad pitch. I think you choose another time if you want to send a message to the other team.
All right, now strategy. You've got the runner at third, the possible go-ahead run. You got a man at the plate can bunt, squeeze.
I've watched Lou Piniella over the years, and he's not a big fan, in my opinion, of the squeeze. I haven't seen him do it too often. It could have been because he had different type of a team behind him, but I don't think you were bunting this situation. Well, the Tigers think they might.
I guess Sparky says, hey, I might.
Yeah. But also, I think the other thing to remember here, when you're playing the Tigers, sometimes 1 run may not be enough. And you have an opportunity here maybe to get a couple more. There's 1 out with runners at first and third. But, of course, the double play is always in order in this situation also.
And remember, the Tigers have the top of their very potent batting order coming up in the 9th inning. Phillips, Whitaker, Fryman. Fielder due up 4th. Gibson 5th.
But sometimes if you pitch out like that, it wakes up the other manager. It may alert him to to say, hey, maybe this is a good time to squeeze because they will not pitch out again. But as you can see, I don't think Piniella really wants to squeeze in this situation, but he may.
Plus, Amaral has been one of his best hitters this year.
Right.
And he has hit .439 against the lefties this year. All right, plus he might have a hit and run.
A hit and run, I think, would be more in order than a squeeze.
2-1 the count to Amaral. When you squeeze, things can go wrong.
Yeah.
Tigers infield double play depth up the middle. Back to the bag is Vizquel, so you see the Tigers thinking a hit and run could be happening.
Well, it's a perfect situation, John, because the second baseman is deep, the shortstop is deep. If you start the runner and there's a ground ball to shortstop and they can't get the double play at second, then the run will score easily. They can't come to the plate from that deep a position on the infield.
Tiger bullpen busy again. Again, Vizquel back. Vizquel also is a guy who can steal a base. He has 6 steals for the year, but he's been caught 5 times.
I don't know if that's the type of ratio you want to send in this situation. Down a straight steal, you may do it with a hit and run.
Sparky Anderson has got the bullpen blues again. The bullpen couldn't hold a 2-run 9th inning lead here Friday. Last night in the 9th inning with a 1-run lead, the Mariners got the bases loaded before they could finally get out of it. Now the bullpen really struggling big time tonight as well. 5-5. A safety squeeze, but the ball is foul. I don't get that play.
I don't get it either, but we're not. You know, it wasn't. I didn't put it on.
All right,
we'll take a look at it. No, we'll take a look at it. Now watch. Amaral tries to push it, as you called it. It's a safety squeeze. You can see the runner at third base. Valley was not breaking on the pitch. Hasselman, I'm sorry, who was Hasselmania, was at third, and he did not break on the pitch.
Get those Hasselmaniacs on your case now, Joe.
Right.
2-2 the count. Well, did Amaral freelance that or what?
I probably so, but I say the squeeze is off now.
Vizquel at first, and Kruger steps off the slab, looking him back. Game perhaps on the line right here. 5-5. The first place Tigers getting ready to head home after the game. They've got tomorrow off.
If you're the Tigers, you have to make it happen on the 2-2 pitch right here, John. Because if you go to 3-2, it puts too much pressure on the defense, because I'm sure that Piniella would run Vizquel from first base if the count goes to 3-2. So you want to make sure that it happens right here where you still have the double play in order.
Another left-hander warming up in the Tigers bullpen. Sparky got a lot of lefties out there. Tom Bolton heating up. 2-2 the count. Vizquel bluffing off the bag at first. And Kruger will throw over there again. Well, each time Vizquel has jumped off the bag as if he were going. After coming set, Kruger has made a throw over there.
Well, Kruger does not have a good move to first base. And I think Vizquel is just trying to upset him or get his attention over there.
A little bit low. Looked like a strike to Rob Deere a little while back. 3-2 now.
Well, see, they had the double play there if he could have gotten the ground ball. Now it's up to Sparky to decide whether they're going to play the infield in a little bit more or if they're going to stay back in case Vizquel does run. If you play the infield back and he runs, you can't get the double play, and the run from third will score.
And one thing to keep in mind, although you've mentioned Kruger doesn't have a great move, with that lefty, you've got to be awfully careful if you're the runner over there not to get picked off.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's, you know, back to the theory of you wait till he delivers the ball towards the plate and then you take off. But it still will put a lot of pressure on the double play combination down at second base.
There he goes. Base hit. Hasselman has scored. Holding at third, Vizquel. Amaral has put the Mariners ahead 6-5.
I said, this is one of the toughest situations to play defense in if you're the second baseman or shortstop. The runner is going. Now, if there's a ground ball to the infield, what do? You can't go home because you're back too deep. But Amaral destroys the strategy anyway by blooping one down the right field line, and the run scores, and the runner goes around to third.
19th RBI of the year for Amaral, the 31-year-old rookie. Now Mike Felder coming up with Vizquel at third and Amaral at first. The infield still double play depth. Now Felder is a very fine bunter. He squares. It was not the suicide. I've seen so many guys want to bunt with a runner at third before. Usually you think of a guy at third and less than 2 down, a guy who wants to drive one somewhere.
That's the ideal hitting situation, I think. But again, that could be coming from Lou Piniella.
6-5. Mariners are now ahead. Sparky brought in Kruger to replace Knutson, who'd retired everybody he'd faced. Kruger has not retired anybody that he's faced. 4 straight Mariners have reached against him. 2-0.
And as you mentioned, we had a similar situation earlier in the game when Piniella took out Dennis Powell, who had retired 5 straight hitters.
Tino Martinez crossed up Sparky's strategy. Kruger came in. Martinez doubled against the lefty. Then Valley was hit by a pitch. Vizquel singled home a run on a hit-and-run play, and then Amaral has singled home a run. The safety squeezed, and Felder is just fortunate that the ball was not catchable for Kruger. Sports Center comes up right after the ball game. Stay tuned. A lot of big events this Memorial Day weekend, and a big weekend for Barry Bonds. Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann will have it all for you on Sports Center. 2 balls, 1 strike to Felder. Felder entered the game as a pinch hitter in the 7th, and he singled.
It's interesting when he in the 7th with the runner at first base and him down by 2 runs, he let Felder hit, and he got a base hit to center field.
6-5. Mariners trying to extend their lead now. Foul out of play. Oh, there he actually swung at that ball. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Tigers bullpen not been very effective tonight. Look at that. A total of 1 1/3 innings among 4 relievers, and they've given up 3 runs and 4 hits. And the men against whom they've charged those runs, Haas, and also now Bill Kruger. Groom did his job, and so did Knutson.
Tell you what, Sparky is not a happy fellow.
Looks like they may need a little bullpen help. Another pop fly, shallow right. Deer's got this one. Tagging and bluffing from third was Vizquel. Deer hit his cutoff man. 2 men down, and Griffey coming up. I think what Sparky's been doing with the sheer numbers in his bullpen is trying to make up for a less than reliable bullpen core. Been trying to do with 7 relievers what maybe you might be able to do with 3 or 4 guys.
Right, exactly. I think that's why he has so many pitchers, and his other players are so versatile. But the versatility of the guys like Phillips and Tettleton, etc., and Trammell allows him to have that many pitchers and carry them on his staff.
That's what all the people say.
Billy Muffet out to speak to Bill Kruger. Yeah, that's 14 pitching changes during the 3-game series. Amazingly here Friday night, starting pitcher Mike Moore went 8 innings Friday. And in the 9th inning it was 3-1, and he went to the bullpen to start the inning. And in the 9th inning he used McDonald, Henneman, Kruger, and Knutson. And then in the 10th inning he also used Bolton and Haas. He used 6 pitchers for a grand total of 1 1/3 innings after Moore. And they lost the ball game. And it's been very similar here tonight.
Well, they used to call him Captain Hook with all the changes he's making now. Maybe it's General Hook, because he has progressed. He didn't make that many changes when he was Captain Hook in Cincinnati.
So Joe's promoted him after all of these years. Here's Ken Griffey Jr. fighting a slump. 0 for 3 tonight. Struck out twice. He's also walked. And again facing a left-hander. Runners at first and third, 2 down. Strike on the outside. Griffey's come up with men on the bases in his last 2 at-bats, but has been unable to get the hit. To 5 Mariners, 2 down. Good pitch. Unit. Curveball. 0-2. One thing as we look ahead to the 9th inning, if it's still just a 1-run game.
Let's take a look at this curveball and watch it starts on the inside part of the plate and really drives toward the outside corner, and it was down.
Norm Charlton doesn't ordinarily go as long as he'll have to go tonight to finish it up. Oh, there's a long drive, and you can forget about it. A 3-run homer for Ken Griffey Jr., and he's busted it open.
Maybe Sparky had the right idea yesterday, walking him 4 times in a row and walking him today, because that's what a great hitter can do to you. You can get him out for so long, and then you make one mistake, and he makes you pay. This is another curveball. We saw Kruger throw him a curveball. He took a look at him. Now let's see how he approaches his pitch. Let's take it forward. Good hand, stop it right there. A little late, but you can see the good extension here. See the line? That's almost perfect balance. If you draw a line straight down through his body to the plate, that's perfect balance right there, and he drives it over the right field wall. He was not fooled at all by the curveball, and that is a beautiful swing there by Ken Griffey Jr., and he has tremendous power. He is a very strong kid.
For Griffey, his 10th home run of the year. He is 28th, 29th, and 30th runs batted in.
And the hitting instructor for the Mariners, his father, Ken Griffey Sr., very proud. And we were talking earlier about comparing him to Barry Bonds. Barry hit a 3-run homer today, so Griffey does the same.
So they're tied for the day.
And you can see why people think that he is going to be a great, great player. Not that he isn't already a very good player. Look at that position. Perfect. He waited on it, and he knows right now that it's a home run. And good reaction there by Ken Griffey. He said, I finally got someone. And there's his father. He's sitting there with a 2-strike pitch, and he's not sure. And that's all the reaction we get.
Well, that's his era.
Oh, okay.
Right? From his era, you didn't...
Yeah, you're right. Don't show up anyone.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, Tom Bolton has come on to pitch now for the Seattle Mariners. Edgar Martinez due up. Bill Kruger went 1/3 of an inning. He faced 6 batters. Retired 1. Allowed 5 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Gave up 4 hits. He hit a batter. And then the big fly to Ken Griffey Jr. And here's Tom Bolton now. Is just like to get anybody out lately. But things have not gone well for him at all. So the Tigers, who were leading 5-3 in the last of the 7th inning, and then 5-4 in the last of the 8th inning, are now trailing 9-5. And with all of those sluggers coming up in the top of the 9th, that's a long way to go.
Long way to go.
Strike 1 to Edgar Martinez. So you talk about hitting in the clutch, and Vizquel certainly hitting the clutch to tie the ball game. Amaral hitting the clutch to put him ahead. It's a big, big hit by Griffey. Could well cinch a victory here.
Well, the 3-run home run, if you live by the words of Errol Weaver, will win your ball game almost every day. You can see he has the enthusiasm of a young superstar.
Well, the Mariners have some pop. That's now 3 Mariners. We're less than 1/3 of the way through the season. 3 Mariners who have hit double figures in home runs. Buhner hit number 11 tonight. Tino Martinez has 10, and now Ken Griffey Jr. has 10. They're all 3 on a pace to hit over 30 home runs. 2-2 the count to Edgar Martinez, the 8th man to bat of the inning. He's 1 for 3 tonight with a walk. He scored twice. Whitaker got it. Top of the order for the Tigers. Last chance, but they trail by 4. John Miller, Joe Morgan in Seattle. A wild one here tonight. But Joe, for Sparky Anderson and the Tigers, although they're in first place, a little look back to what has been for the Tigers, which has been not a lot of pitching, and that bullpen looks like it's a little thin.
Well, especially their middle release, I think that's where he's going to have the most problems. If they can get to the stoppers, I think they're okay. But, you know, when you think of the Tigers, you have to realize, you know, you're going to live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword sometimes, and they've come from behind so many times this year and scored a lot of runs late in the ball game that it's going to happen to you sometime.
Tony Phillips, 0 for 3 with a walk. Hasselman stays in to do the catching for the Mariners. We have not gotten a report about Dave Valley's condition. Strike 1 from Charlton. Now, here's another question for you, Joe. All of a sudden, it's a 4-run lead. Charlton has already worked an inning in the 3rd, and yet he'll have to finish the game now to get a save. Is that important? I mean, it's important perhaps for Charlton and his next salary negotiation, but by the same token, with a big lead now, there's not that much of a pressing reason to keep Charlton in the game.
Well, actually, he'll get a win in this
that's
situation.
Right. Okay, get a win.
Yeah,
well,
but I
mean,
mean,
he gets it anyway.
Yeah, but it's still, you know, the same question is, do you leave him in there? But I think what we just watched Pernella witness, I don't think he's going to take a chance on going to his bullpen again in this situation. I think he's going to let Charlton stay out there and try to win this ball game. It's a very important game for him.
In other words, hey, I tried using the bullpen before.
Exactly. And I think
it didn't work out too well.
And as you, this is a very important game. You cannot come from behind like they have in this ball game and not put it away. And you do not want any heroics by anyone, you know, pitching with the tying run at the plate in the last in the top of the 9th inning. So he's going to try to put this away 1, 2, 3 if he can.
2-2. Now Charlton sat around a good long time there while the Mariners were batting around. 5 runs in the 8th inning. By the way, Alan Trammell has come out on deck. This may be a first to act as a pinch hitter for Lou Whitaker. 3-2 now to Phillips. Rather ironic.
Yes, it is, because, you know, Lou Whitaker has been, you know, a good hitter against left-handed pitching, but his last at bat was very disappointing.
Big night for Kirk Gibson. Foul away, but also ironic because Alan Trammell has been right alongside Whitaker at second base and also in the lineup for many years. They followed each other in the lineup for many years. So there's Trammell now, a utility type player. He plays all around the field, pinch hits. He still does well. Phillips continues to battle it out with Charlton. Charlton would like to get him 1, 2, 3. Phillips would just like to get on base here and give the big sluggers a chance to do their thing.
And I mean, and let's face it, the Tigers have come from behind by 4 runs in the late innings before this season, so it's not over when you have the bats that they have in their lineup.
Again, Phillips fouling it away. 3 balls, 2 strikes the count. Next Sunday, we'll be in Montreal. The Cubs are the Expos. We hope you'll join us. 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. We'll see Delino DeShields, Marquise Grissom, Larry Walker. Anxious to see this young fellow, Lansing, who's done so well. Struck him out. Stay tuned now. Sports Center comes up next in its entirety. They won't leave out any of the sports or any of the highlights. Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann standing by at Sports Center right after the ball game. Now Alan Trammell pinch hits for Lou Whitaker. Trammell takes the ball. Alan Trammell is hitting .286. He plays a lot. He's not really a utility player. He's a part-time player, I guess, platoon player, but he plays third base now. He's played the outfield even, and look what his ball club has done with their overall pinch hitting. He's 1 for 1 himself as a pinch hitter. 3-0 to Tram with Fryman on deck. Charlton has struck out 3 of the last 4 men he's faced. One thing the Mariners have going for them in terms of using Charlton long tonight, tomorrow is an off day. That is a called strike. The Mariners will have the Milwaukee Brewers coming in here Tuesday and Wednesday. 3-2. Tigers go home. They'll be facing the Chicago White Sox at Tiger Stadium. Amaral, 2 down. Trammell retired. Well, Sparky's best laid plans went awry tonight. And so did Pinella's. Remember when Charlton came on, the first thing he did was give up a 2-run single to Gibson. Here's Fryman, 1 for 4. Ball 1. Fielder would be next. The Tigers have not hit a home run in this entire series. This is game 3. There's a strike. A pretty good series for Lou Pinella's young ball club to win against the first place team from the East. And the breaking ball, foul ball. Now 1 strike of life left for the Tigers. Don't forget our doubleheader tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 Pacific. You'll see the Cubs, 7:30, the Phillies and Reds. Popped up. Actually out into medium deep right center. It's caught by Buhner. The ball game is over, and the Mariners have taken the series. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30 in Cincinnati, and next Sunday night from Montreal, 9 to 5 the final. John Miller, Joe Morgan. Good night, everyone.